And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. Of course, your Friday roundtable with the finest Unfiltered. This episode is sponsored by The Key. We got a great guest for you. Good morning, John. Good morning, Marlon. We have George Misfud from The Key today, who's going to, excuse me, these spring allergies have been getting me. He's going to break it down for you, why you need to take your promotional exam, why you need to take The Key. Be serious about getting promoted. I can tell you this. I took The Key. We were just talking about it. 2007, I passed the sergeant's test. I was 69 on the list. Thank you to The Key. Only 240 some more students passed that year. So get ahead of the curve. You need to get promoted. The Key is going to break it down for you. George, thank you so much for being here. Tell us why cops need to get promoted, how they jump into it, and thank you for sponsoring this episode. We appreciate it. Take it away, brother.
My pleasure. Good morning. Good morning, John, Eric, Marlon. Good morning, everybody out there watching. All right. Thanks for the invite. I love to talk, so I'm going to try and keep my talking limited so you guys can get on with your normal episode. But one day I will come on and we'll do a full-blown George Misfud career and the things I've experienced from both sides of the fence as being a subject and then being as a captain, all right? But we'll have to save that good stuff for another episode. So basically, we're here today to talk about promotions. Eric, like you just said, you did well on one of the hardest sergeant exams out there. Besides that exam, one of the hardest exams was the 2015 lieutenant exam, where the scores were crazy. And it all comes down to, with these exams, who they pick to write on the panel. Like when I wrote a test, the panel was really scrutinized. They vetted who they got to write on it, to write the test. But you get one or two oddballs on that panel, and you could have a bad test. But kudos to you. You did great on that test, actually, in 2007. And yes, you did come to our class, which I love to hear. So,
oh yeah,
promotion news. There is a sergeant's test expected to be administered in February of 2027. Now, there's a sergeant's list out there. All right, the last list is out there, and it's like 4,300 names on the list. That list was curved, or whatever you want to call it, adjusted. You had people with a 58, 59, all of a sudden they jumped on the list. So they made a 4,300 plus man list. That, in my eyes, and everybody at The Key, that's a disservice. Like, you're giving people false hope, and why are we making a list that long? Are people going to die on the list? Now, yes, unless, God forbid, we have another COVID. The only time the list was extended was the last list because of COVID. So hopefully we don't have one of those. But I'm going to just speak on math for those out there that are asking, because we get a lot of questions. Am I going to make this list? Should I be studying for the next sergeant exam? So they are up to list 2029 after Monday's promotion coming up on March 30th. If you go by math, the average promotions for sergeant have been 60. You got 14 or 13 months until the list expires. The list is good for 4 years. So it expires in May of 2027. So you got 14 more months. If you go by average, you're looking at 800 to 900 that are going to get promoted. So you're looking at a list number of somewhere around 2,900. We don't know. Anything can change. They could say this month we're doing 150 and they keep banging out 150, or they could do 35, like what you're going to see coming on Monday. It's just there's no rhyme or reason when they come picking these numbers. My advice, if you're on that cusp, definitely study for the sergeant exam coming up. We actually have deals out there which guys are taking advantage of. They're like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Study with the exam, and if you get promoted in time, if you get promoted, you don't die on the list, we will work with you for a lieutenant's course, right? So we're working with guys because they don't know what to do. We also have guys who are already sergeants, but they want to jump in this sergeant's course to get a head start on a lieutenant's course. Lieutenant's test is going to be in probably fall of 27. So we're working with those guys too. Jump in our sergeant's course, and then we will roll you into a lieutenant's course. Just send us an email or a DM on IG and tell us your situation, and we'll work with you. So test is coming in February 2027. Our classes, as you guys know, you put the schedule up. Our classes are going to start April 25th. It's distribution orientation. Then we start live classes May 2nd. We are going to have 10 classes a week at 7 convenient locations. The most locations you're going to get from any school. And there's not many schools out there. I'm not going to talk about other schools. Everybody knows what schools are out there. We are going to be in Staten Island, Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Bronx, Nassau County, Suffolk County, up in Rockland. 7 classes a week. If you're a member with the key, you can attend one class for the week. You can attend them all. It doesn't matter. Or you could just not attend at all and you could watch live. All right. Before I get into the actual class, let me just talk about real quick who we are as the key. So the key's been, it's the longest running promotional school, without a doubt. We're almost hitting 30 years. So back in 2006, I was studying for my captain exam, and I was friends with Jimmy Shea. We actually grew up in the same neighborhood, Jimmy and Dermot. And he saw that I was really into the material. I was like, Jim, what do you think about this? And he's like, this fucking guy don't stop asking questions. Obviously, on the side, I'm not one of those that would just raise my hand in the middle of the class. And if you're coming to my class, don't do this because I'm going to fucking tell you, put your hand down, all right? I'm going to embarrass you. All right? You interrupt the other, whatever it is, 400 people in the room. We don't need that. So from there, Jim spoke to the owners, all right? And he said, this guy, George, is sharp and he's into it. I became a material lesson plan reviewer. That's how I started. And then they said, hey, do you want to give it teaching a shot? I said, sure, why not? I remember my first class, it was in a hotel in Plainview, and I had to put on a show. Inspector McCormick, he was there, and I put on a show. Good feedback, and then from there, boom, I came back, and I became an instructor. So who we are at the key? I'm going to go from highest rank down. We are a team. We're not just one person. Everybody on this team is a retired supervisor or even an executive member of the NYPD. All right. Together, we have over 100 years experience. So from the top down, you have Kevin Ward, who is a 3-star chief. He was the chief of staff for Bill Bratton. He's one of the owners. Next down, you have Frank Vega, retired 2-star chief, Patrol Borough Staten Island commander. Come on down, we have Full-Bird Anthony Russo. He's the latest addition to our team. Anthony Russo, retired out of Harbor. If you don't know who Anthony Russo is, I'm going to say it with confidence. The smartest guy on the job. And Phil Pulaski, if you're listening to this, he's smarter than you. All right, no, I'm not taking it away from you. He was number 5 on a sergeant, 1 on lieutenant, 1 on captain. You can't get better than that besides being 1 on sergeant. So Anthony Russo is our latest addition to our instructor team. Who do we got after that? We have Paul McCormick, retired deputy inspector. All right. Paul is one of the original owners of the key. After that, we have myself. Also a retired captain. We have John Monahan. He was the founder of the key. John, when he retired, he was the CEO of MODS. For the new guys out there, MODS was Management Orders and Directives. Basically, that's the unit under OMAP that writes department policy. Patrol guide, admin guide, detective bureau guide, administrative guide. They write the policy and they make the changes. Years ago, it used to be called interim orders. Now they're called revision notices. They make the changes. So John was the one in charge of that. After John, our last person on the team is, you all know him from being on your show, Ralph Salento.
He's in the chat right now, by the way. Ralph, good morning, brother.
What's up, Ralphie? Ralphie is he's a character, as you saw from your show, right? He was the CEO of DB training unit. Ralph, me and Ralph been teaching now the longest for the key. We have a spectacular lineup. You come to one of our classes, you are going to absorb the material. You come to my class, you're probably gonna laugh, all right? Ralph, you'll laugh too. Ralph tries to make jokes like me. He's got a little bit more hair, so he may have better facial expressions. All right, Ralph, you're catching up to me, brother.
I tell you what, George, Ralph is on you. We thought we were gonna go for like 6 hours, man.
Yeah.
We can go, man. Yo,
He
Ralph,
still wanted to go,
I
Ralph.
love you,
He's
man.
like, I'll talk politics. I was like, oh,
No, Ralph is great. He'll keep you entertained, and that's one thing we do at the Key. Listen, the patrol guide is made up of about 2,100 pages, and now you have to study a little admin guide. And when I say admin guide, basically they move some patrol guide into the admin guide, but it's still the same amount of material. So you're looking at over 2,000 pages you have to study. That's a lot of shit, and a lot of it is boring shit. So we at the Key, we take the patrol guide, we condense it into a digestible material that we incorporate into our lesson plans that the student can understand and absorb when they're at class. And then throughout classes, when we teach, we bring, like I know I do for sure, and the other instructors, we bring our experience when we're explaining these procedures, because all of us were in the street. We were cops, right? We didn't hide in any offices or anything like that. We did real police work. Even as the CEO of Brooklyn North Anti-Crime, I was out there with guys grabbing guns. I had no problem. They were like, Cap, let's do that call. I said, no, it's George. Let's do that call. And we do that call, whatever. So when you teach, it comes over better. When you bring a real life experience, like this is why patrol guide procedure, blah, 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 says this. We give them real experiences with that, okay? So that's who is involved in the team. Prior members of our team, you guys know Jimmy Shea. Jimmy Shea is the patrol guide Yoda. Like when I started teaching, I would listen to Jimmy's material. Back then it was cassette tapes. I would throw them in the car. As I'm going to class, after I studied 2 hours, just to hear stuff Jimmy said, because it would help me present the material better, right? Jimmy became on to be the police superintendent for Jersey City. Dermot Shea was one of our instructors who went on to become, obviously, NYPD police commissioner. I don't know if you guys know, a little bit older, Kevin Clark. He was an instructor. He went on to be the police commissioner in Baltimore. We have a lot of different people that taught for us that came through the class. Just our class alone, personally, that I know, Melissa Eager, Borough Commander of Staten Island. She was coming to and I just saw her like 2 months ago. She was coming to my class with a stroller in Brooklyn on the side of the Bell Parkway. She's like, can I leave my kids there? I said, of course you can. Like, that is dedication. She's one of the borough commanders that came to our class. Who else is there? There's Aaron Edwards, the one that was just on the news. I just ran into him at a meeting the other day. I was presenting at a fraternal meeting, and he came up and he spoke to the members. He said, I'm a 3-time Key student. It worked for me every exam. Brooklyn North Borough Commander. I saw him at the Guardians the other night. Another person who went to the Key. I mean, we've trained and we've helped so many people move up the ranks. Like the list is endless. And I'm just mentioning people that are still active, and there's a lot more people out there. So back to the class, like what I was saying, 10 classes, 7 locations. You're going to get hard copy lesson plan. You're going to get hard copy of our legal guide digest. You are going to get access to our learning management system. It's called COPS, all right? So if you don't want to come to class, you log in. You can log in on the phone. It's made as an application to use on your phone. It's not in the App Store. It's part of the Key season ticket. You could do everything from your phone, or you could do it from a computer. And it's brand new technology. It is great. The technology is great. Like, I'm not a tech guy, but I've used prior apps. When you log in, you have access to everything. Our Key library, which gives you the patrol guide, admin guide, acronyms, all right, prior past exams. We have a database of 6,000 questions, and I love reading comments. I'm not sure if anything's coming up here. Oh, all of a sudden the schools have 6,000 questions. They must use AI. Yeah, listen, come see me in class if you really want to say that. Not that I want to fight. Are you kidding me? We've been doing this 30 years. We have a database of like 50,000 questions. AI, give me a break with your stupid ass comments. And these people hide behind names. Like, You can see I'm very passionate.
Oh, welcome to the Finest Unfiltered.
No, yeah, dude. That's like, if you could talk a little bit about like how you guys teach people, like the difference between regular test questions and promotional exam questions. But we do have someone in the chat, and they're asking, what should we do to prepare before the first class?
First class meaning, obviously, not orientation week. First class meaning Patrol Guide Section 202. So a week prior to your first class, when we do orientation, you're going to get a textbook, which is going to have 202 in it. Also in the online system, COPS, the digital lesson will be there. Read 202. This is what you have to do for every class. So you need to read the patrol guide before coming to class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you why. The patrol guide is the verbiage they will be using, or they should be using on test day. They have the guide with them. Read the patrol guide, then come to class, and we break down the corresponding section that we're teaching that you just read. Me personally, when I studied, I read the patrol guide only one time. Some people don't even read it. They just read our lesson plans and it works. But I wanted to read it. But one time, and I studied 2 hours a day. That is it. But every day. It was during 9/11 for my sergeant exam. I studied 2 hours a day. You hear stories, guys, I study 6, 7, 8 hours. You're just reading. Are you really absorbing that? I mean, no. Because our attention span is like 45 minutes, study, take a break, all right, get back on it. 2 hours a day consistently. And I was, out of like 10,000 people on my list, number 5. They screwed me. I should have been number 3. And I appealed it. And they say, you're now list number 3. Meanwhile, I was already promoted to sergeant. So what good did that do me? I was already in the first class. That's my studying. And it worked for me for sergeant, lieutenant, captain test. I say, you know what? Let me study more. I cranked it up more. I did pass, but it wasn't the best. I should have stuck with what worked. Yeah. So, John, you were saying what do we do at the class? Like I said, we break down the boring patrol guide into a digestible lesson. That's just to get the material so you can understand what the department policy is. Besides that, we provide you with different tips and tricks, like acronyms. Like you have a long acronym. I'm just like, here's a common one. Who's allowed behind the desk? Test question that comes up all the time, all right? There's a list. So we give you an acronym for who's allowed behind the desk. Acronyms are big. I loved acronyms. And I actually have a story with that. I'll tell you in a second. What we also do, which is very important, you could have the sharpest guy that knows the book in and out. But come test day, he or she shits the bed. They're just not good test takers. We tell you and teach you how to take the question. We break down, we tell you what to look for. Like you guys know from studying, you got to watch out for the words and, or, maybe, if, never, sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing you have to watch out for. You have to identify what are they looking for. Because they'll give you a long, drawn-out paragraph, and at the end, they'll say, according to whatever procedure, which one of the following statements is most correct or least correct. So you got to remember, after you read that whole story, am I looking for a good statement or a bad statement? So we teach you how to take the question, because that's what's going to be coming up on test day. You're going to have ground balls, boom, 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 but you're going to have the hard ones that are going to, which is going to separate a lot of people on the list. This is just some of the stuff we do at class. My acronym story. Before you took exams on computers, because now they're all computers, right? You still get scrap paper. They give you scrap paper, and as soon as the bell rings, this is what I would tell all my students. Get that scrap paper and write out your acronyms. So when you get the question that asks blah, 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 look at your scrap paper, look at the choices, circle in or whatever you want to call on a Scantron, and move on. The bell rang. This is my lieutenant's class, no, sergeant's class. The bell rang, and front and sheet of the scrap paper, I banged out acronyms. I raised my hand. I said, can I have another piece of scrap paper? They came over, they said, why? I said, I just filled that out. No. You pulled that out of your bag. You cheated. I said, listen to me. I didn't cheat. I'll do it for you again. Go out in the hallway and get one of those IAB supervisors because I want another scrap paper. This is my writing. I did it. I just did it now pull cameras if you have cameras, all right? It was like a big to-do. They actually thought I pulled it out of my bag. Like, come on. Bottom line, I was able to use the scrap paper. Acronyms are big for a sergeant exam. Points are big on a sergeant exam. One of my cops that worked for me in borough crime, he's a sergeant now. He had 10 points on top of his raw score. I don't remember what the score is, but he got points for departmental recognitions. He didn't do the run because he just wasn't one of those guys. 10 points. You know how many names he jumped on a sergeant's list? Take a guess, John, Eric, Marlon.
I would say probably about 1,000.
Right on the money. A fucking 1,000 people he jumped because of those 10 points. That's big.
Yeah.
That leads me into this.
Huge.
Tremendous. That leads me into this. The Physical Fitness Incentive Program, the job offers every year. You can take the program, take the test, and earn points towards your next promotional exam. I've been saying this for years. Hopefully, guys that are taking the test in 27 got a half a point in 25, and they're going to get another half a point in 26. That's 1 point right there. Besides getting the point, how about do it so you know you're in shape and you can fucking take care of yourself and your partner when you're out in the street. That's more important. You want to go home at the end of the day, all right? Then earn the points. But you're working on two things at the same time. Banking the points and then taking care of your health. Like I said, the Physical Fitness Incentive Program, it's open now. You can get your half a point for 2026. You go on to the tactics portal on your phones or department computers and schedule it. I'm going to tell you right now, the first thing you have to do to get to move forward with the test is the 1.5 mile run. You got to do the run in 14 minutes and 21 seconds. No matter who or what you are, man, woman, transitioning, disability, everybody has to do it in 14:21. You get 0.2. Once you do that, then they allow you to take the JST, which is 0.3, and you get a half a point. Shame on anybody who's been listening to my videos for over a year and they didn't take advantage of that point. You just did yourself a disservice.
George, I got a question for you.
Go shoot.
Yeah, so when I took the test, obviously it's kind of outdated. You know, I took the test 2007. Back then I was listening to the audios and you didn't have the technology you have now. How has the technology you have now really helped someone like Igor who had to come to the classes with a stroller and these apps? How has the key utilized this to make it better for the students? Because I like the audios. It was tough to really. I used to put it on when I was sleeping. I would feel like, okay, maybe it's getting to my brain. I would put it on when I was falling asleep. But how has that helped you in comparison? How has the key utilized that to really help the students?
So if she was doing it now, she wouldn't have to come to class because our classes are recorded. Back then, the classes were not recorded. So now they're recorded, and you can watch the class whenever you want. You can watch it 1,000 times. You can wait 3 weeks and watch it, all right? You can also download from SoundCloud just the audio portion of the class so you can listen to it while you're driving or you're in the gym on the bike or whatever you're doing. So that part of technology jumped up big time. Just not having to show up at class. And a lot of people do take advantage of online stuff. We have thousands of people who will sign up and then come to class. You don't have as much because they want to sit home. Me personally, I say get your ass to class. When you're in class, I think you're definitely more accountable. You're sitting there. You're going to stay awake. At home, it's easier to just hit pause and walk off and do whatever you're going to do. And then I'll get back to it later. There's no accountability. That's why you come into class. Be accountable. So that, Eric, technology went a long, big way just from that point as well, listening to the things. I just want to add something in there before I forget. For the guys, because we get this question a lot. What time on the job do I need to take an exam? So, we're talking about sergeant right now. To take the sergeant exam, you need 3 years on the job to take it. 5 years on the job to get promoted. To take a lieutenant exam, you need 1 day as a sergeant, 2 years in rank, and you need 96 credits to get promoted lieutenant. Captain, same thing. 1 day as a lieutenant, 2 years as a lieutenant in rank to get promoted captain. And captains, you need a bachelor's degree. Now, you need credits, all right? Speaking of degrees, we teamed up with Smarter Degree, which takes our course and turns it into accredited credits at the departments. It's not called Education Tracking Unit. It's called Education Training and Opportunities Tracking Unit, something like that. Bottom line, our key course is worth credits through Smarter Degree. And then you can go on and get your bachelor's degree with them. So that's the promotion rules, because people don't know, can I take the exam? Do I have enough time? So with the parameters I just told you, the quickest you could move up the rank, you could be a cop. 9 years later, if you hit them right, you could be a captain. Years ago, like the 1993 sergeant's test, Paul McCormick and Jimmy Shea, because of what they did, they changed policy. They were precinct commanders with like 8 years on. Because years ago, you only needed 3 years as a cop to make sergeant. Now it's 5. So they banged it out, and they were the youngest precinct commanders on the job because they just excelled from, cop to precinct commander in like 8 years. And that's why they changed the rules. And, it is what it is. I think you should have experience as a cop. I think 5 years is good experience, I wouldn't want the rules changed because you got to learn the job. Me personally, I took my first and only sergeant exam with 10 years on. I was in street crime, then I went into narco, and then here's my reason for taking the sergeant exam. There's many reasons why you want to get promoted. I love doing police work, right? I love ripping guns. I love locking up drug dealers. I love going through doors and fucking watching people try to jump out windows, not knowing that the windows had fucking 4x4s and they would fall off the wood. They're bleeding and nothing to do with us just because they tried to get out. So I'm doing a strip search one night, and I was in Manhattan North Narcotics. The guy fucking wouldn't take his underwear off, right? And years ago it was different. There's no body cams and all that shit. So behind me is my sergeant, one of my best friends now. He's a retired Lieutenant Larry Vigiano. And I'm saying, this guy's not taking his shit off. And we just said, dude, you got to take it off, or somebody's going to come in and take it off for you. One of our team members, retired detective Jimmy Rose, was a big, dark, black guy, like 315. We actually called him Tiny. We said, Tiny, come in here. This guy don't want to take his fucking drawers off. The guy saw him, took his drawers off, and I tell this story in class, and fucking threw it at me. I was a lot faster, quicker. My hand went up, the fucking underwear wrapped, and in my face was whatever was in his fucking underwear. That held me back because I definitely wanted to go in there and have a talk with him. But that day on, I said, fuck this. I want to be the sergeant or the lieutenant standing behind this strip search. And honest to God, that was my motivation.
So it was a pair of underwear that motivated you, huh?
It was a pair of fucking underwear with lint fucking, who knows what else was in those fucking drawers that these.
Oh, listen, I did a lot of strip searches. I know that's.
So that was my motivation to move up, right? It was, and so I did it with 10 years on. It's never too late. And I went from cop in 2000 to captain in 2008. I did it in 8 years because remember, I was already past the having 3 years as a 5 years as a cop. I was already past that. So I did it really, really fast. Besides that, the young guys out there, tier 3, even if you're not tier 3, you're tier 2, get promoted. That's how you give yourself a raise. Don't wait for them to settle contracts. I never hit top pay in any rank. I remember studying for lieutenant as a detective in narco because I knew I banged out the sergeant exam because you would wait 30 days and your score would come out. I did so well. I knew I was going to be in the first group. They announced the lieutenant's exam, and my sergeant exam was in 02, lieutenant exam was 03. They announced that I'm going to class studying as a detective for a lieutenant exam. I gave myself my own raises. That's the way to go. And number-wise, for you young guys out there and girls that want to move up, all right? Top pay cop now is about 126, and we're taking out the overtime. We're taking out, all that other shit, all right? Which is not bad, but top pay captain, and this is why I'm wearing this, not to be a captain, at least a lieutenant, all right? Top pay captain, just want to look at my things. I don't want to give you guys false information, is $219. You're looking at a $93,000 raise just from passing exams. You crazy not to, all right? In the white shirt, and I tell everybody in sergeant's class, sergeant is just a stepping stone to get to fucking lieutenant. You got to go past this little step or hurdle because you want to be a lieutenant. You both of you lieutenants, you know that's the fucking best rank, all right? You got some bullshit you don't want to handle, Sarge, 10 to the house, or whatever the fuck, wherever you are, meet me at this. You got some shit that's crazy, you're not handling what's happening. It's getting knocked up to the duty captain, right? You are the man. You are the CEO of your platoon. If you have a CEO who lets you run your platoon the right way, you have a great job, right? I mean, lieutenant is the way to go, but the only way to be a lieutenant, obviously, is to pass the sergeant exam. So everybody's got to get on it, all right? Got to get on it, especially tier 3 members. You for pension purposes, you got to get promoted. Many reasons to get promoted, but that's money is one. Going across that stage, both of you did it twice. Marlon, you did it once for detective. There's no better feeling having your family in the audience watching you go across that stage, all right? And whatever they're yelling and bullhorning. No, bullhorning is not allowed no more. Remember they used to do the bullhorn when we had a different administration. That's not allowed no more.
Oh, yeah?
It's not. The Commissioner Tisch has rules, big rules.
What do you do now? You read bedtime stories?
You can yell, but you can't bring like no amplified devices into headquarters anymore. For real, it's like it's a sign.
It's a real thing. Jesus.
It's a real sign. Next time I'm there, I'll take a picture and I'll show you.
I gotta see. This is come on. That's supposed to be a good time.
I know, but I guess some people get out of control with
getting out of control.
I don't know the incidents, but I'm sure there's stories out there of what changed the rule on that.
I would ban the amplified devices myself. I'm no fan of that.
Yeah.
I don't think John needs a microphone. He's loud enough. No, but you know what?
Reason to get promoted. You hate working in 7.5 sector Adam? Guess what? Become a sergeant. You're not in 7.5 no more. You may go to the 7.3 or 7.9, but you just gotta change of assignment. Like, and I always believe like every 3 to 4 years, moving around, like it's like a restart. Like it just gets you going. Your career doesn't get stale. You go into that command, or that assignment, that detail, and like you got a new job. I
gotta say, George, the biggest takeaway for me, and I thought, and this is why I tell people they have to take the class, especially the key. You can know the information, but that's half the battle. You have to, and what you taught me, and I don't know if you remember, is how to prepare for that exam, but how to actually understand those questions. And I think that's even more important because those questions are designed to trick you and how to prepare for it. And I remember being so over-prepared from your course that the answers just jumped off the page. So for you, I have to thank you because I remember that was an extremely difficult test, but the answers flew off the page. To be honest, I wasn't even reading the entire question because the answers just popped right off. And I was like, oh, this is it. I didn't have to read through all that fluff. So I want to thank you. The approach, and I don't know if you remember, you spoke about it, just a grueling factor of getting yourself prepared for sitting in that chair. Something I often talk about is being able to sit in a chair for 6 hours. So I appreciate it.
No, that's my pleasure. That's what we do. Like, I get a lot of thank yous when I go to different events. Like, oh, it's because of you I passed. It's not because of me. We lead you down the path. You did the hard work, right? If you follow what we're telling you throughout the course, you stay along with the agenda, you're going to fucking pass. Unless you smoke weed the night before and you just forget everything the next day. That's, because now the cops can't smoke weed, but it's obviously illegal. You're going to pass. I mean, that's what we're here for. We want people to pass. We're not in the business to have people failing. I mean, people say, yeah, if they fail, they come back to me. We don't want you to fail. We want you to move up and take the next test, all right, with us and tell your cops where you went. That's what we're here for, to help.
Hey, George, every time, do they let you take the exams?
In what?
I know you used to take the exams every time, and do they allow you to take the exams?
So what they did was, I used to take them all. Like, we used to take them all. When they used to have an in-basket. So, besides the in-basket, we used to take the exams, and then we would make mental notes, because obviously you can't write nothing, of issues with questions. So then we would help people protest. And then it would be so many questions getting, double answer, triple answer thrown out. So they're like, you can't take the test no more. Actually, they tell, like, if I apply for an exam now, they'll tell you You have to be an active, whatever rank you're in, taking that exam. So don't apply. And it's actually against the rules. All right. So we don't apply, but I'm not mentioning names, but the last sergeant's test, somebody applied and took the exam, which should never been allowed, because now you know what was on the exam. And that last sergeant exam was 2 days. So now you took that exam on day one. Who's to say you're not going to make a list? Because all you need is a list of the 50 hardest procedures. Who's to say you're not going to make a list and share that with the people taking it on day two? So you should have that. Nobody should be allowed to take the exam anymore since they changed the rules. So that's the rule now. You can't take it. You apply and slip through the cracks like somebody did, on the last exam. Yes, I'm sure more than one person slipped through, but no, we didn't do it.
Yeah, but you also don't need to, like you guys have like all the historical tests, right? And that's the other thing that like I think really helped me is like I literally took those tests like I was taking test day. Like you guys gave me the packet. As soon as I could get like a 6-7 hour block to be by myself, I either went to the library or I was sitting in my garage taking that test like a loser for 7 hours. But afterwards, it gave me the confidence to sit down and take the test and pass the test. And the other thing is like, what you were saying about with the key and having lived experience is a lot of the stories you guys told about procedure helped me to remember it. So like I would remember, even though I like it wasn't my story, it was Jimmy Shea's story or your story. I would remember it. I would be like, oh yeah, this is that, like, you know what I mean, on this scenario. So there was a lot of things. So what would you say, like, if you had to say, like, look, there are other classes out there, everybody knows them, we don't need to say it, but what would you say, like, what would you tell everyone? Why should they take the key specifically? I mean, in the beginning, you were naming a lot of names, and I'll be honest, I don't know anyone that didn't take the key that got promoted. That's just me personally. I know everyone I know, we all took the key. Everybody, people that got promoted all the way up. So what would you say is like the sell point for the key? Why is the key the premier school?
It's numerous reasons, John. Track record, like you just said, so many people that got promoted, the years of experience that we bring to the table, all these executives, they were all executives teaching, no non-law enforcement involved in our team. What else? The way we break down the material for you, the example you just mentioned, street experience, bringing it into patrol guide world. And I'm going to give you a Dermot Shea story in a second. I'll give it to you right now. Those are the main reasons why you should, like, longest running promotional school. Like, I could just go on and on. Dermot Shea. So CDs, you all got CDs. Marlon, you got a CD? We all got CDs. They're called command discipline, right? The command discipline for a reason, right? Because it should be handled in-house, adjudicated in-house. So when Dermot was the CO before 4, he got one of his guys, or whatever, a few of his guys got a CD from IAB. What did Dermot do? To my command, warn and admonish. Campese, terror. When I come on the real show, I will tell you some stuff about Campese, all right? That I lived through, my wife lived through, but I don't want to do it here. Campese went ballistic. No. My people wrote this CD. And you know what Dermot's answer was? Command discipline. It's my decision. Change patrol guide because of that. So now if it's issued from an outside entity, IAB investigations, you can't do shit on your own. So why do we call it command discipline then? Typical nonsense. Like that's one of them, right? That will interesting. You'll remember if you now see that on test day, but all right, it was issued by Borough Investigations or the new quad, whatever they're gonna call it. I can't change it on my own. Strip search. I have a personal story. Again, you have to be the police to have these stories. You can't.
More on the list.
What?
More on the list stories.
Strip search. I was the 8-3 XO, and the guys in SNU back then came in with a collar cap. He's got some shit in his ass for sure. Got some shit in his ass. He won't take it out. Guy wouldn't take it out. All right. They said they saw something. Now, the department policy is you cannot go in and remove anything out of any cavity, whether it's your belly button, which is a prior test question. They had a razor blade in a belly button. Stupid question. But bottom line is you can't remove it without a search warrant, all right? And then even when you get the search warrant, you're not removing it. It's going to be medical personnel. So yeah, he's got a fucking cigar tube up his ass. There's drugs in there. All right, he wouldn't take it out. So what do? Can't do nothing. Take him to the hospital, right? Goes to the hospital. We think the hospital does. They're not opening the fucking rectum and pulling it out. They give him a laxative. Then they say, back to command. So now you come back to command with this guy that's going to shit his brains out. He's in the holding pen, right? So he's in there, shits. Now, somebody's got to watch him. You got to have a cop on him 24/7. Watch him, he shits. What do you think the cop got to do? You got to fucking stir through the fucking diarrhea and look for the crap. Dude, this guy was in the cell for 2 days shitting, and there was no drugs.
So the point is, take the key, get promoted, so you don't have to be the guy digging through the shit.
Fucking mix it like fucking chocolate pudding. Like you're fucking making a cake or something out of that. But strip search, that's another story. Strip search, you need to follow department policy. You have to get a search warrant before you move. And that's so we got a search warrant. And it all stemmed from that. Crazy.
George, what do you say? Because this is the question I get often, right? I speak to a lot of cops all the time, and the question I get is, well, listen, I just say, listen, this is not about cost, this is your investment. And I get questions like, oh, I could just read the book. Why do I need to go to those classes? It takes up a lot of time. Why do I need to spend the money? And I said, is a difference, because you can know the information, but you need to know how to learn. They teach you how to learn and take the exam. But what do you say to the guys who say, I don't want to, even when the Finance Unfiltered is $6.99, I don't want to spend $6.99 right now. I don't have the time. I'll just read the book. What do you say to those guys?
I say, listen, if you really, really can't afford it, and you're living, above your means, and that's why you can't afford it, whatever reason, then you do what you got to do. Speaking of that, if you can't afford it, I'm chairman for the board of directors for the Finance Federal Credit Union. We have loans available, and we have probably about, last I looked, 97 people took advantage of the loan to pay for the key course. It's $70 a check, right out of your check. So if you can't afford it, that's one thing. Could you pass reading on your own? You could, but if this is your first go around, I highly, highly suggest you attend the class. And listen, if you're really in that type of financial distress, reach out to me. I will speak to my partners and we will help you out. Listen, everybody goes through some shit. We don't know what's going on in somebody's family. We'll help you out. We'll float you $6.99, and then when you get promoted, you can give us back $6,999. I'm just kidding. We'll work with you. All right. The last thing we want to do is you not take the exam because you can't afford it. But $6.99, John, Eric Mullen. When I fucking studied 20 years ago, I probably paid $700.
Yeah.
$6.99. I mean, speaking of that, obviously you guys have it up there. Finest Unfiltered 699 is the code. You can't beat that deal. Like you're not going to find another course that I'm not going to compare other prices, but nobody's doing it for $6.99, or nobody's giving you the resources to take a loan out to pay for your exam. And also that loan is only good for the key course. It's not going to be good to go get an iPhone or go get some fucking sneakers, all right? You take the loan out and then you get registered into our program. So if anybody's out there needs help, send me a message, all right? I'm on IG. Whatever, send an email to the key. We will help you with the loan. Or if you're really that bad, we'll help you with the course, all right? But I don't want 700 people saying I can't afford it. Can you float the note? That's not going to happen, all right? We'll do a little background, and if you're really that bad, maybe we'll do a credit check and see if you're really that bad, to help you guys out. The last thing we want to do is not have somebody not be able to take it because they're not making enough money. We know how it is. Some people are, 4 years on with a family and a mortgage. I don't know how they do it nowadays. So it could be a tough situation, but highly suggest to attend a class for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And anything, just if we promote it often, and all of your links or wherever anybody's watching or listening to this episode, either now or in the future. But where could we go to sign up? Well, where do we plug in Finest Unfiltered 699? Like, how does that work?
So you go to our website, www.nypdthekey.com, click on the sergeant's course. Then when you go to check out, it's going to say, do you have a promo code? And you're going to enter the Finest Unfiltered 699. Listen, I'm going to say it clearly. You got to enter the promo code. We have guys who don't enter the promo code. If you can't follow this fucking direction right now, enter the promo code, give it up. You're not going to be a supervisor of police. Just fucking stop watching. Go do what you do, probably in a police car, which is nothing, or go leave and go flip burgers. You're not going to be a supervisor. Promo code has to be entered. Finest Unfiltered, $6.99 at checkout. That's like giving you a question on test day, and I'm going to give you one right now. According to May's Executive Order 16 of 1978, who do city employees report corruption to? I'm giving you 1 point right now. DOI. If you get that question wrong, shame on you. I gave everybody a point right there for free. John,
Yep.
Eric, Marlon. It's coming there. It's on every exam.
And we all know how useless DOI is, but you'll remember that DOI is useless, but notify them.
That's it. Corruption.
No, it's absolutely no. They actually, it's funny. We'll talk about it later probably, but City Council now has a bill out that they want DOI to also investigate any police misconduct. They're introducing that. I'm like, are you absolutely? Are you guys out of your mind?
So this is another reason why I want to get promoted. The higher up you are, the more protection you're shielded from this nonsense going on in the street.
Yeah.
Somebody's writing Angry George. No, I'm not angry. I just very passionate and animated. And if you know me, I keep it real. I don't bullshit you and sugarcoat you. And I'm going to tell you like it is, because the way I teach, this dude is wild. Not really wild. The way I teach is so you can remember on test day. And here's another one. There's a procedure, unusual occurrence. In I think it's 21209. If I'm wrong with the procedure, don't knock me, all right? Because I don't remember every procedure number. Unusual occurrence, there's usually 3 notifications a cop always a desk officer always makes for something. And you guys may remember it. The acronym is a cop. CO duty captain, operations, patrol bureau. It's almost a standard notification. In unusuals, and I remember teaching this, I said, right now, before we teach, write on your paper, no fucking borough. And honest to God, on that same exam, they asked that. And then I got messages, Cap, they fucking tested prisoner unusual. No fucking borough. It was still in my head like you were at class. Like, that's why I teach the way I teach. That's why I say the things I say. Like, I break on civilians. Like, they're a dime a dozen. Go to Home Depot parking lot if you need a 124 room person. Or I do it for a reason, and you'll see how. Listen, civilians, I love you out there. As a captain, I realized the value you brought to a command, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't take it personal, but I teach the way I teach. Because come in the classroom and come test day, you're not going to forget what the crazy shit I say. The acronyms I make up, some of them I can't even say on this live thing because it's offensive. But it don't matter no more when I teach because I'm not retired, so I can offend everybody and I don't really give a fuck.
I love it. I
tell them, if you don't like cursing, this is not the class for you.
KB, one of our friends and listeners who's here often, by the way, KB in New York City says, I used the key and it's the best. Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, George, I thought you were super motivated. You got a lot of charisma. And that was one of the reasons I went to the classes. I always made sure I was like, yeah, George, great, man. You kept me motivated. And that works for me, and that's what's great. You have so many different instructors. And I think that, fit different types of people. I'm definitely type A. And I was like, I love that you had a lot of charisma. And I love the packets. Do you guys still do those packets? I like the packets. And I loved how you did arrows and different descriptions. That made me remember it. I'm very visual. And that really worked for me. Do you guys still do that? I thought that was fantastic.
So now what we do is we give you, like, for 4 weeks, we give you a textbook. A nice textbook. Shit, I should have had one handy. It's a nice textbook, better than the packet, with nice binding. And I'm going to tell you right now for the scammers, it's binded so you can't open it and put it on a copy machine and share it. That's why it's binded. I'm going to be straight up because people are scamming. Listen, it is what it is. And forget about trying to scam the technology. You try and log on from a different IP address, you're shut down. Now you got to explain the reason why. Listen, you're paying the money. You're investing in yourself. Worry about yourself, all right? Take this serious. I'm going to tell you right now. You got to be all in. If you're not all in, don't fucking waste your time. Don't waste your money losing time from your family or whatever else you're going to do. And do it right this time. Don't come back in 4 years and say, shit, I'm here again because I slacked off. Then don't bother, man. Be all in for the program. for your test, all right? And it's not every week. That people, I saw some comment on some other forum. So what are they going to do after the 18 weeks? They're going to charge you more? No, we're not going week to week. We're going to do a week. We're going to take a week off so you can review and then get prepared. So it's like every other week. I just got a special delivery. Hold on here. Nice key bag here, right? So let me show you the textbook. Here's the textbook.
That's nice. Yeah.
This is the captain's book, all right? So it's hard to open it up and a photocopy, but it's very durable. So you have 4 chapters in this book that you carry around, easily carry around and study. And you don't have to carry it around. You got your phone, log on, pull up whatever lesson this is, Captain Lesson 5, look at it, or pull up the patrol guide that's in the key library, all right? And right there, you can do your study. What's this one say? How about we mention the key instructors were actually cops, unlike some other classes have non-cops teaching? Ha! I'm a grown man, right? I'm not going to stoop to the level that somebody else did, like he's talking about in another class. Somebody else, now I'm going to get it fucking heated. Somebody else wrote a question on the last sergeant exam that made me a fucking child rapist of a Boy Scout. That is disgusting. I was in the Bahamas when I got this question sent to me. Said,
on the official exam or just on like
on their material in another class? They used my name and made me rape a fucking boy. Like, dude, you are jealous of me that much that you got to write a question? First of all, you're never going to look like me. All right? You're not going to be me. And what if you want to write a question, make me a burglar or a robber. Raping somebody? And I hope you're watching. I'm not going to mention your name, but you know what I'm talking about. Downright wrong that you did that. It's totally unprofessional. I'm not even going to mention anything else, but people can figure it out. Yes, we're the only school that has our teachers that were bosses on the NYPD, unlike other schools. I had to go there because you asked. Otherwise, I would not have brought that up. See how I get a little passionate. Just
Listen,
like
you know what, George? I'm glad you came on today because this is the right platform. This is where we can vent. This is where we can let people know the truth. No, people need to know that's downright dirty. Listen, you want to make some jokes? We love it. We're all about it. You want to make some jokes? It's all, but there's certain things you just don't touch. That's not cool. You know.
And you know what? I was on a family vacation in the Bahamas. I still remember it. I'm actually going next week because my son's senior trip in the Bahamas. And I'm reading the question, and I get on the phone with the person, and I'm the person that wrote it, or they didn't write it, but it's under his school, denying it. And my kids are like, Dad, what's wrong? And now they have to see me blowing up, all right? And then they obviously get to see the question, and they're like, that's messed up. Do I drink mushroom coffee? No, dude. Peptides, PRT. I don't hide nothing. I'm on no steroids. This is me, 55, ready to go.
George, John drinks. I tried mushroom coffee. John drinks it. That stuff is nasty. I can't do. I love coffee. I tried the mushroom coffee. I tried to even mix it. It's terrible. I don't know how you drink it.
My coffee's done.
Yeah, listen. I'll tell you right now. I have no problem. I say it all the time. I say, George, you look great, and I think we should all want everyone to look great. I mean, it's something I don't know why. For some reason, the NYPD. People have this thing when someone looks good, either they're jealous or they just want to kind of shit on them. Oh, they must be doing steroids. You look great. You should be happy people look great.
Jealous. You said, Eric, they're jealous.
They're jealous, yeah.
Even if you shot yourself up with steroids every week, if you don't put the training in, the nutrition, the recovery, you're not going to get any gains. You're just going to fuck up your blood work and fuck up your whole metabolism, right?
Guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
Jealousy is definitely involved. Eric, here's one of the other books that we give out.
That's the key?
This is another textbook, the Legal Digest. So it has penal law and the legal bureau bulletins, which any cop who's doing police work should be reading legal bureau bulletins. You know, as being in crime and stuff, this is knowledge for the guys and girls out in the street. When you could stop a car, when you could take people out of the car, when you can do a search, is this gun going to be admissible? X, Y, and Z. Legal bureau bulletins, very, very important for the active guys and girls out there doing police work.
Listen, I'm a firm believer. Case law, I was very active in case law. You know, all my cops would tell you. Like I used to tell them, you want to get promoted. There's no doubt about it. You need that patrol guide, but you want to become a good cop. You have to read case law. You have to read those legal bureau bulletins. That's how you become a good cop. So I'm with you. Absolutely.
I remember when I studied, I don't know if you know the school, KSA. Artie Storch was the owner. That was one of the schools. For sergeant, I went to the Key in KSA. And he had a judge on his team. I think it was Judge Walsh. And he had a red legal bureau bulletin, little mini book. And I said, this book is the best. I would just, because back then I was very active. I would just read it. Besides for the test, like, we're going to stop this. Like, I knew the reason, legally, the reason why we can stop the car, we can rip them out, we can go in the fucking trunk, or we can go in the glove box. I knew legally. And then as a sergeant, I was in citywide crime for housing. I would, pass that knowledge off. And, I love to help the cops out, teach them how to do police work without getting themselves in trouble,
George, could you give us, I think this is important if you have the numbers, but could you give us some analytical data of what is the success rate for someone that takes the entire key course? Is there some type of numbers you have that we could give out? Or
I'm not going to just bullshit you and give a number out. John Monahan is coming on, the founder of the Key, on Wednesday. I'll make sure he takes a look. But I'll tell you one thing. We launched our course like 12 days ago. And as people sign up, we start taking random samplings. Like, we call them up. Hey, we see you the first time with us. And they say, yeah, last sergeant's exam I took, I'm not mentioning the school because I'm not bashing the school, but there's only one other school out there. Fucking figure it out. I went to this school and I only went to your crayons. And if I would have went to you the whole time, I would have passed. So now I'm with you. Like, the amount of signups, Eric, we have right now, and we're only 12 days in, is off the chart. Off the chart. It is ridiculous.
Well, listen, I'm telling you right now, it worked for me. And if anyone here, our friends and listeners, anyone watching, and George and I just spoke about this offline. I took the test February 3rd, 2007. At the time, I had 3 years on the job. I came on January 2004. I had just 3 years. And the test was extremely difficult. I think only 240 some odd people actually passed. And I was 69 on the list. And I don't think prior to that, I was always, I was academically, I was okay. I had a bachelor's degree, but I was never a good test taker. You changed my life. And I'm not kidding. Now I've had tests, your lieutenant and captain, but just other things in life. I'm always looking for the next challenge. And I always approach my exams in the way you taught me. And I have to thank you for that, because I think that's what's really important is getting the material, but how to sit in that chair and actually approach those questions. And even just those discussions about sitting in the chair, because I don't even think I could sit in the chair for 6 hours if it wasn't for preparing myself for those classes. I had like ants in my pants. I couldn't sit there comfortable. I would get uncomfortable. My eyes would start playing tricks on me. I remember you talking about, getting up a certain amount of times and how to just, give yourself a break. Because those things are important. They're small tips, but they really are important.
Time management, too, when you take an exam. Bring a watch, because whatever facility you're in, I don't know whether they're going to do it if you're in schools or not, they may not have a clock. But if they do have a clock on the room, it could be wrong. Bring your own watch. I think it's 6 hours, but they could change rules whenever. Look at the time. You write it on your scrap paper so you know where you're at. All of this stuff, Eric, we teach, during our class to prepare students. All different tips and tricks you would never think of besides just the material. There's a lot of things that get involved,
So what do you say to Marlon was a detective and Marlon's definitely a detective of the Fires and Filth, does some awesome work behind the scenes. What do you say to the guys out there that are detectives, and especially you were knocking around a narco, who are making overtime? I don't know if they still get the overtime. They're making overtime. They're happy with their team. They're comfortable. Maybe they're up for grade. What do you say to those guys?
Well, number one, you got to be happy with what you do. All right. If that's what you want to do, in that squad or in that narco module, and you 100% don't want to do anything else, then you stay there. But I was in narco, and I told you a strip search story. I was making I was making at one point 140 hours a month overtime, where it was Chief Camadana, because he thought he was slick. He gave us Tuesday, Wednesdays off, like not knowing, hey, 180 day, we're going to make it work for Tuesday, Wednesday. So we made so much money. But eventually, how long can you, chase that wheel? chase the overtime wheel. You're going to get older. You're going to get tired. You may have a family and kids, and you can't get family time back because you're going to court. Like I'm retired now. I get to see my kids, going to games, and one's going off to college. So you get promoted. Your pay salary is going to go up, right? And then you'll outwork less. Yeah, each rank you're the rookie of that rank, but it gets better after that. I think detectives should be supervisors. You got all that detective experience. Now turn it into being a leader and teaching the guys. Like I was a detective in Narco, took the exam because I wanted to be a boss. Everybody gets comfortable and complacent. Again, change is good. Give yourself a raise, all right? And at the end of the day, it comes down to what's best for you and your family at the end of the day. And at the end of the road, you're going to be sitting in a chair like me, retired. The higher you go up, the more money you make, and you have, that's it. Your pension number is locked in, except for your COLA. All right, that's your number for the rest of your life, based on salary. Remember, overtime's not guaranteed. Like you could have a great month, especially now. I think things are changing from what I hear. You're not going to make the overtime you did. They shut that shit down, and now you passed you didn't take the sergeant exam because you were making 70 hours a month. I'm making it up. Now what? Now you're sitting there making nothing, and you just let the exam go. Speaking of that, at least take it. Give yourself an option. I tell you what, I was a lieutenant. I didn't know if I wanted to be a captain. I took the exam, and I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? And then I did it. I gave myself the option. It is what it is. You have to. Options are good to have because at the drop of a dime, this job can change like that, and you know it. You know how you all experience some bullshit where you're sitting on the other side now. All right. So that's what I say to the detectives out there.
You could get Rob Lukash, who's finds a filtered family here. He said overtime is not guaranteed. He got a nickname. He told us it was Rob No Cash. So if Rob No Cash is your commander, yeah, you might lose your overtime. So you gotta take the exam.
Yeah. I heard UCs now in Narco. I heard UCs the overtime is like 20 something a month, and they can't go out and do that transit shit in uniform. Like those guys are out there doing the most dangerous work, and they're getting some bullshit 20 to 25 hours a month overtime. That's just crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous. Again, overtime is not guaranteed. Get promoted, you give yourself a raise. It all snowballs from when you retire, and you can leave this job with a nice pension, not having to work, or work if you choose to. And it opens doors for everything. The higher rank you are when you leave, you become more marketable for whatever you're looking to do. Definitely opens doors. I know people that got promoted captain, walked across the stage. One recently, Edson Glorigill, he was a cop for me in Borough Crime 7-3 ICO, got promoted captain like 4 months ago. And then next day, pension section. He wanted the captain on his resume. Hey, he was a captain on paper, right? John, you're muted.
Yeah, John already failed the first question here.
Sorry, yeah. No, but I was saying even afterwards, like gigs, they're like, oh, they pay you higher if you like do security after. Like, oh, you're a supervisor. All right, it's $50 an hour for you. Like whatever it is, So and the other thing I always looked at it is like, sergeant, you're second grade detective. Like if you were a detective, like you're automatically a second grade detective. You don't need to kiss any ass. You don't need to get promoted twice discretionarily. And then lieutenant, you're a first grade detective. Like that's it. And now you want to go past that, captain, nobody can take that away from you. And just based on those numbers that you're given, it's like an extra $50,000 a year in retirement.
Yeah.
Just getting up. It's like just in retirement, just on your base numbers, never mind your overages and all that other stuff. So, I mean, to me, it's a no brainer. Give yourself the option. It's insane. And honestly, I always say, just take it. Just take it. It'll work itself out. If you're competent, don't worry about where you go. Somebody will grab you. You'll go. You'll be either back where you wanted to be, or in another detail. It's just as good. Like there's not a lot of competent people left on the job. So they need competent bosses. You're a competent person. You'll be fine. So
and frankly, I think $6.99 is dirt cheap. If you break down how many classes and the investment, we're talking about $50,000 in your pension for paying $6.99. It's dirt cheap. It's nothing.
Let's. I didn't. You know what, John? We never did the math. So let's figure out what are they? 700
18 classes. It's less than $40 a class.
It's $38 a class. I remember paying $35 at the door in 2001 studying for my sergeant exam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? 2001 to now, whatever that is. I'm not the best at math, but I became a captain, right? 20 some odd years ago. Like, God. Speaking of another reason why you want to get promoted, if you become a sergeant, you just took away about 4,000 and change people that can tell you what to do. And the higher you go up, the less people that can tell you what to do. All right. That was my thing too. Like, I'm listening to this. I don't even want to name it, telling me to do X, Y, and Z. All right. So I'm going to get promoted. And then you go to the next rank and you find another person in that rank that or above you tells you what to do. Like, no way. I don't want this person telling me what to do. Like, it's not that you're on a power trip. It gives you more authority, and you are then the boss of wherever you're working at.
Yeah, Samantha G. Coney says, George, you guys always fair with prices. I think, honestly, if it was $2,000, I would pay it. It's not cost, it's your investment. We're talking about a short time stint that is going to pay off for your entire life. If your pension is $50,000 more a year, do the math. It's a no-brainer. You have to take these exams. And honestly, I had a good time in it. John and I talk about this often. Like, as you're going through it and you really start to delve in, you enjoy it. Like, you're on the job and you're like, okay, what procedure does this correlate to? And then you have like study groups and you bond with people that you work with because you guys are all in the same boat studying for the test. And it's that healthy competitiveness. I like that. I would go to the classes. For me, in the beginning, I'm like, I'm just going for the classes because I want to see who else is going. But then I started going, I started liking it. I'm like, all right, this is good.
And you know what else is good? If you retire and you become a commentator or a podcaster and you break down a police video, you could actually correlate it to the patrol guide instead of just talking out of your ass and saying everything's racist and the cops should all go to jail. Like,
That's
you can
idea.
actually know the procedure and the law that dictates the scenario that they were in. You know, so like that's the other.
So you're saying if you
like YouTube.
Yeah.
Saying without saying it, John. We got the message there.
Yeah. Of course. Hey, listen. Hey, sometimes it does help to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
No, but it's good. But all right, George. Anything else before you run, bro? We got a long show. I promised Eric we'd only go 3 hours today. So
how long are we going? I don't even see what the time. Oh,
no,
man,
we're over an hour already.
We're supposed to be 10 minutes.
I know. Yeah, I was like,
George,
a few minutes.
These things fly, man.
Yeah.
It's good shit, Ralph. When I do my show, I'm going to beat you, kid. I'm going to be longer, all right? I got a lot of stories to tell about. Oh my God, I wish I could get into it.
I tell you what, right now, Ralph is still the longest running show, interview we had so far. If you can beat that, God bless.
All right, so in closing, for the people out there that are going to sign up and use this discount that's being offered because of the podcast, we're supporting you guys as retired lieutenants and supporting your podcast. You know, we try to give back, like we support the fraternals. We give them discounts as well, right? We try, and that's crazy. We give discounts, right? And then somebody bought it 2 weeks ago and they send an email. You giving a discount to them, but you didn't give it to me. Meanwhile, you bought it on a discount already, but now it's $50 cheaper. You want us to send you $50. I mean, dude, come on. You're already paying $38 a class. But in closing, Finest Unfiltered 699, you have to apply it at checkout. If you don't apply it at checkout and you purchase the course, thank you for the extra funds. You're not going to get it back, not because we need it, because you are stupid and you're not going to pass the exam. Like, how do you just fuck that up? Finest Unfiltered 699. Not giving it back on purpose because of your lack of listening to easy instructions, and you're not going to pass any exam. Bottom line.
So if you're stupid, don't take the key.
No, don't take the key. Just go in there and just, C all the way down. C, A, B, C, just mix it up. But actually type it up. You never know. You may get it, right? You got a 25% chance of these questions.
Look, so after the exam, George, we would love to have you back on, dude. Like, come on, tell your story. We'll go through your life, your career. We appreciate you coming on. Like I said, it's an honor that you guys to sponsor us, give us the discount code. It's great privilege, and it's something. It really comes full circle because we use the key so much. You know what I mean? And so did everybody I did. So it's an honor. We appreciate you coming on today, spending your time with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah.
No,
George,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, we really appreciate it, George. It's been a pleasure. And as we're telling our friends and listeners and anyone watching, We're not just telling you, hey, here's a product we're trying to sell. We use the key and we had success with it. So we're speaking from a place of experience. Thank you, George. You're a great man. We appreciate it. And you look fantastic, brother. Anyone that has a problem with it, they're just jealous. You keep doing what you're doing. You keep rocking, keep training, man. You know,
listen, any cops out there that need some advice, nutritional or workout advice, hit me up. I own a gym. I'm not telling you to come to my gym. I'll give you free advice, free workout program. Like, as long as you're an active cop, not some stupid ass on the other side of this who's a civilian and just trying to, get some free stuff. I would love to help anybody out who needs help, because you need to stay healthy and retire and stay even healthier, because every month you're going to get a check. Every 31st, I look at the bank account and I fucking laugh. My pension, my wife's, I'm like, this is fucking great. Again, I could keep talking, but if you need help with any of that stuff, nutritional programming, I'll help you out for free. My studio is called G2 Training. I'm on, everyone knows me on social media as well.
Well, somebody asked, Samantha Giacone, she's asking where your gym is. So if you could plug your gym, the location. So
it's called G2 Training. It's actually a personal training studio. You have to be there with one of our trainers. We have 5 all NASM certified trainers. We're in Syosset, Long Island, right next to the train station. Okay. If you don't want to come to the gym, I can still help you out, like I said, for free. What about retired people? Yeah, listen, retire is when you need to take care of yourself, because you want to live to get this check. I'm 55, healthier, in better shape, physically, mentally, than I was 25 and 30 years old. That's just a fact, because more knowledge and doing stuff right. George selling peptides. I'm glad, I don't know who that is, but I am in the middle of a deal with a medical facility that you can get peptides through G2 Training, and then you'll deal with a doctor direct. Yes, that will be coming very soon. And should I give my cell number out, or is that crazy?
I think it's crazy. Just give me.
Who's listening
we got a
over
lot
there?
of
How many
cycles.
stupid ass text messages.
Yeah.
The email, george@g2training.com. You can't mess that one up either. If you mess that one up, obviously I know you're not studying for sergeant. george@g2training.com.
All right, awesome, brother. Yeah, check it out, dude. Yeah, check it out. I'm definitely gonna hit you up about the peptides. Like I said, I'm just scared. I got to do my own research and learn about it first, and then I think I'm gonna do it too, because I'm getting old, dude, and like we were talking about I can't recover anymore. It's crazy.
Recovery, Wolverine stack for those listening. Wolverine stack, recovery stack. Well,
George, I definitely want the peptides. I'm on the road. Could I get it delivered to me?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all telemed. They'll ship it as long as you're in the U.S.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk. I'll be in the U.S. We're going to talk. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, brother. All right,
time
George.
for the gym.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Love you guys.
Later,
Likewise.
brother.
Later.
Hey, George.
Later, bro.
Bye, guys.
All right, people. So you heard it here. Take the key, right? Use that code. Find us Unfiltered 699. Take advantage of the discount while you can, because when it's gone, it's gone. And then don't cry. Be like, oh, you guys had it up. Well, you waited too long. Sorry. If you don't have the money, like George said, reach out to them. They'll get you a loan right for it. So today's topic, onto it. We went a little long on that, but appreciate you guys hanging in there. So today's topic: New York socialists target NYPD. We've been talking about it for a while. We've been talking about it since the protest settlement agreement. Now, Chiose, who you see up on here, New York City Democratic Socialist, he just introduced a bill, and the bill is he's seeking to put into law exactly what the protest settlement agreement does, and what he's seeking to do is really just strip the SRG of all authority. So he put this video out yesterday. And it's funny enough, he puts it with if you listen in the background, he has "Who Shot Ya" from Biggie in the background. But this is insane to me, thinking that 2 to 3 weeks removed from a terrorist attack at a protest, we have a New York City councilman who's seeking to keep New York City vulnerable, actually make New York City even more vulnerable to protests. More protests to terrorism at protests. So this is Chiose. Listen to what he has to say. I couldn't believe it. I was literally like, someone sent it to me, and I was like, this can't be from today. This got to be from weeks before the protest. It can't, you can't tell me that this is intentionally trying to leave New York City protesters and cops vulnerable to a terrorist attack. You can't. I was like, this can't be from today. I checked the date. Sure enough, it's from today. Here's Chio say yesterday.
Counterterrorism unit showing up to peaceful protests here in New York City. The NYPD calls it the Strategic Response Group, also known as the SRG. It was created in 2015 for counterterrorism, but it's really deployed to brutalize protesters. I'm New York City Council member Chio Say, and I have a bill that would stop the NYPD from sending SRG to protest. From Black Lives Matter to Palestinian liberation, peaceful protests gets the counterterrorism treatment.
The New York Civil Liberties Union says the, quote, aggressive escalation by the NYPD was a violation of New Yorkers' rights.
Which means you have militarized cops escalating tensions to the point of violence. And according to their own training, their role isn't to protect protesters, it's to control them. Meanwhile, the SRG's budget costs New Yorkers nearly $134 million a year. Money we should be using to build housing and better transit. That's why I'm reintroducing the Curb Act. It does three things. It stops the NYPD from deploying the SRG to protest or crowd control, bans tactics like kettling, tear gas, pepper spray, weaponized bikes, and high-powered sound devices at First Amendment events, and requires the NYPD to report every deployment at these events. No matter how much misinformation is spread about the Curb Act, this is about stopping the NYPD's abuse of New Yorkers. We're wasting money on a unit more focused on cracking down on peaceful protests than their actual job of counterterrorism. Even the former NYPD official who helped create the SRG agrees that it should be overhauled. It's time for a hearing. It's time for accountability. The SRG is a misallocation of city dollars, and the hundreds of New Yorkers who've been attacked by the SRG deserve justice. Call your council member today and tell them to support the Curb Act.
Unreal, man. So a few weeks removed from a terrorist attack, and this guy wants to leave you more vulnerable. Absolutely unbelievable. What do you guys think about it?
Mom, you take a crack at this.
Yeah. You know what? Listen, I think it's just very misguided. We all saw what happened a couple weeks ago with the terrorist incident in near Gracie Mansion. We all saw how those guys used the protest and the disarray that was already there to try to take advantage of the situation. And I think what Chi is doing is just opening up the door even further to other terrorist incidents, because as we've said before, protests are soft targets. If I was a terrorist and I wanted an easy one, I'd go for a protest. Think of it. You have all these people, a massive gathering, and you know, it's easy to fall into the crowd, and it's easy to do something in the middle of that disarray. So I think he's just enabling even more chaos, with this measure.
Sometimes I watch these guys from city council and like this kid walking around, and I ask myself, someone that served in the military and the police force, are we living in the same country? Are they really American? Do you really love America? Like, how can you love America? How can you say that you actually love people? And shortly after a bomb attack, we're not talking about a potential incident. It was an attack. We're just fortunate enough and lucky that these IEDs did not deploy properly and did not detonate in the manner that they were supposed to. I mean, we're just lucky here. Like, to me, it's like anti-American. And I say at this point, I often talk about these city council members. It's almost like they're in competition with each other, or it's just, part of their circle. Like, who's going to come up with the next bill that is anti-police? Who's going to come up with the next bill that chips away at the NYPD? And you really have to ask yourself, like, who's voting for these people? Do you really love America? Because, yes, I believe in civil liberties. We all believe in civil liberties. I believe in protecting them. But I also believe that it should commingle. Civil liberties and police protection should commingle. They should coexist. It shouldn't be opposites that, hey, your First Amendment rights, your civil liberties, that you can't have the police there. These things need to coexist together. So we need the police there to actually ensure your First Amendment rights are allowed to play out. And the fact that we see constantly now, they all team up and they get so focused on one issue. And the past issue for the past 6 months has been on SRG, right? It's always SRG, this militarized unit for the NYPD. And SRG it's a necessary force. It's intelligent. It's a special unit. And if we don't have SRG, we see the results. We see that 2 perpetrators managed to drive from Pennsylvania to New York City and detonate 2 bombs. They just didn't detonate properly. But again, I watch guys like this and I say to myself, are you really American? That is anti-American right there. Anti-American. Anyone that is voting for this idiot is out of their mind, and they're anti-American too.
I mean, look, the dude's a moron. So I retweeted what he put out. I retweeted his video when he put it out yesterday. And I just basically said that we're weeks removed from a terrorist attack, and you have a councilman who's trying to leave you vulnerable to a terrorist attack. Like it's crazy. And he replies to me. He says, NYPD Community Affairs stopped the man with the homemade bombs, not the SRG. So it's just factually incorrect. And that's what we have to understand about politicians is they're incompetent people and they don't know how to read situations correctly. They should be talking heads or go start a podcast somewhere because they have no idea what they're talking about. So nobody stopped that bomb. So let's get that straight. Not anybody. That was a failed terrorist attack. Had those terrorists been more competent, there would have been dozens of people killed, injured, and maimed. And, the other thing is there's this whole thing about SRG and counterterrorism doesn't belong at protests. We've been talking about it for a while. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So if counterterrorism doesn't belong at a protest, then they don't belong at a parade. They don't belong at an event. They don't belong at any mass gatherings. So are you against having counterterrorism at parades? Because that also is a First Amendment activity. So what are you talking about? And the same for you, Madani. What are you guys have no idea what you're talking about. The same thing that happens at New Year's Eve is the same thing that happens at these other mass gatherings. Because like Marlon said, they're soft targets. Everybody knows that. And so internally on the job, I get all these counterterrorism people jumping down my throat. SRG is minimally trained in counterterrorism. All right, great. I don't care. The fact that you deploy resources properly and you staff, whether it's a protest or a parade or anything else properly, that is a counterterrorism. That is a counterterrorism response. If you do not staff those things properly, the potential for a terrorist act raises. Because what's the first line of defense as a cop? It's not your gun. It's not your radio. It's you. It's your presence. It's your uniform. It's people coming up and saying, oh, wow, yeah, I don't feel comfortable to break the law right now. I don't feel comfortable to light 2 different IEDs, take my time lighting them and throwing them into a crowd. Why don't I feel comfortable? Because I see competent police officers all around me, and I know that they're going to stop me. And so what we're hearing is it's all this mishmash. And the thing that really, really bothers me, what really bothers me is we're the only people saying it. The unions aren't talking about it. The leadership of the NYPD is not talking about it. Law enforcement groups across this country that claim to care about cops aren't talking about it. They're all just jumping up and down over Chief Edwards. And I'm like, wait, screw Chief Edwards. Let's get past Edwards. Let's get past Grant Polligren. Let's get past all that. Let's talk about the fact that it took one photo for all of you to celebrate a failed terrorist attack and an inept response to it, and a response that was inept because we're kowtowing and bowing down to leftists because you're afraid to tell the truth. Let's talk about that. Where the F are you, Scott Monroe? You're coming out a year later, probably 2 years after myself and Eric have been talking about these social media influencers and saying that you need, the job needs to do something about it. And honestly, your messaging is so weak. You're talking about legislation. We already have the legislation, bro. They just need to be instructed on what to do and what laws to do. That's it. They just need to feel supported and know that the job's going to back them. They don't need any new legislation. We don't need to pretend so you could fight for 3 years. So that's the thing that bothers me more than anything. It's yeah, in a couple of weeks or maybe this weekend, you'll read about Xi's response to this in the Post and in the Daily News. But just understand, that never comes out if not for this podcast. You don't hear all the other podcasts talking about it if not for this podcast. Because, first of all, most people don't know what they're talking about, as we clearly seen over the last couple of days, especially yesterday. And then the other thing is they're not even up on the news. They don't even know what's going on. So New York City right now is being left vulnerable to terrorism. The NYPD has taken a 180 stance from post 9/11 posture, whether at any type of mass gathering. And now the city council's doubling down on that, and no one's saying a word.
Yeah. So what John is referring to about the DEA is this post from Scott about the social media and cops. And just quickly, keep in mind that the DEA's comments are still locked. So if you wanted to comment on this, you can't right now. Only the accounts that are approved by the DEA are allowed to. So effectively, Scott is calling for accountability for this, but the DEA themselves don't have any accountability right now, you know? And like I said online, it's accountability starts at home. Okay. Be the change that you want, Scott. Okay. Open those comments and be a big boy. Okay. Additionally, right. I'm going to say that well, you know, in regards to Che, the reason why Che now has a platform is because Tish, and again, the unions are part of it too, but they're all enabling Che because they ran with a false narrative and nobody wants to correct the narrative and tell the media that it didn't happen like it did. They all ran with it, and now that false narrative is kind of embedded. You know, it's kind of there. I mean, it's going to be hard to get it out now. What you're seeing right now is just a quick AI search for Chief Edwards, and as you can see, the AI this is factually incorrect. Okay, but the thing is that the facts are out there so long that I mean that narrative has been out there so long that it's kind of embedded in the zeitgeist right now, right? And if the narrative had been corrected and the truth was out there from the get-go, okay, Che would have not had a platform to stand on. But instead, the job let this go on and didn't correct it, and now he is running with it. That, you know, hey, look, we stopped the terrorist incident, so why do we need SRG anymore? You know. So again, and by the way, I think this is gonna keep on going further. Okay, and I expect them to get a Medal of Freedom or so BS from Congress soon. So it's gonna keep going. And at the same time, people like Tish and LaPetri are going to have to go in front of city council and beg them not to get rid of SRG for the same problem they helped create right now, for the same platform they helped create by running with these narratives, letting these narratives run wild, rather.
Well, that's another reason why I have a problem with the NYPD leadership, especially Jessica Tish and Mike LaPetri. Mike LaPetri has 30 some odd years of experience, and he's quite intelligent, but because he's a jellyfish, he's been intelligent, but not useful for the boots on the ground, not useful for the residents in New York City, because he's just placating this entire game. Jessica Tish knows damn well that SRG is necessary and effective. And I'm sure, because who's in her ear? Ray Kelly and Bill Bratton. And I'm sure they tell her that SRG is necessary also, but they're all playing this game of politics. They're all balancing this scale right now to placate to Zohran Mamdani, CCRB, and City Council to stay in their jobs while pretending that they care about the cops at the same time. And it's interesting about this. It's people like Chiose and the rest of the City Council that just want to further emasculate the NYPD, right? Think about it. They take so much focus on the uniform. It's about the presence, right? What they want to dictate what uniform items the NYPD should wear, what tools they should utilize. Why don't we turn the scale and say, you know what, and flip this around and say, you know what, now, Chio, say, we're going to tell the city council members what items they should take to work, what tools they should utilize. You know what? I don't think anyone at city council should have a chair. You should have to stand all day at work. I don't like the ties that you wear. I don't like the outfits that you wear to work. It's kind of offensive. Maybe that's what we should say, because that's what we're doing. It's okay that community affairs takes down a terrorist, but it's not okay if SRG does it. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's further emasculation of the police. Why? I say it often, right? Because the boots on the ground are the most tangible form of government. So if we scratch away and we tear away at the SRG, we tear away at the fabric of the law enforcement profession, and we tear away at it even more. And that's a great point you brought up, Marlon. That's why I often love to talk about AI. AI is a tool, and it's a good assistance in policing, but it's not a replacement for cops. And that's what they want. Eventually, they want a replacement because it's extremely subjective. And we know, in fact, that's actually misinformation, because the cop that did tackle the perpetrator, the terrorist, was Grant Polgarin, who should be promoted detective. But they ran with this narrative, and this narrative has been a deflection from the reality that they failed. This idea, well, they took down the terrorist. Great. If you took down a terrorist and this was actually a successful event, there would have been thousands of lives lost. And that's what they're not telling you. So anyone, again, if you vote for these crazy city council members, shame on you. You don't love America. You sure as hell don't love New York City. And you sure as hell don't love your fellow man. And that's why I have a problem with every active NYPD chief who's sitting idle right now and doesn't say a word about what's going on right now, and how ineffective our leadership of the NYPD is to combat these city council members. Jessica Tisch could do it at a city council hearing when she's fighting for herself because of the position she's in and the power that she has. But why don't we do it for the NYPD, the boots on the ground, and for the residents of the city, and stop this emasculation by the city council? Enough is enough.
Look, to be fair, they can't stop it, but they could do exactly what we're doing. They could call it out. You know, only the public could really stop this. The public and the media could stop the ball from rolling, but it just keeps rolling downhill, right? It's not like the unions could say, all right, you don't vote for this, and the city council is not going to vote for it. You're in a one-party controlled city, a one-party controlled state. It's going to happen. But what they could do is use their bully pulpit to awaken everybody out there, right? Like, think about the mass force multiplier if it wasn't just us saying it. Even Shell jumped on board with what we were saying. You know what I mean? Even Shell's against this. So, but just think about the mass multiplier if it's us, if it's other former retired guys out there, if it's Newsmax, if it's Fox, if it's the Post, if it's the Daily News, if it's the unions, if it's the leadership of the NYPD. They're not gonna vote for it because it's gonna change public perception of it. You know, right now, public perception is that the SRG is a rogue unaccountable unit. And that's because there's been no opposition to that statement other than from right here, the Finest Unfiltered. You know, and some other podcasts will tell you that they are a rogue unaccountable unit and they should all go to jail. You know, and this is in January. This is when she introduces the Curb Act. Listen to what he has to say. And, you know, look, Tony Raganel, I know he's a good friend of a lot of people. I don't know Tony personally. I've interacted with him. He seems like a nice guy. But my problem is when you're going to go out on a limb and say stupid shit for no reason, and now don't get mad that all these lefties are using you. You know, like, don't get mad now that all these lefties are using what you said. Oh, that the SRG should be revamped. Why? There's no data on why the SRG should be revamped other than Chiosei and Zohran Mamdani and all of these other activists don't like them because they're highly effective at their job. There's no reason that they need, and now your name's attached to that. Why? Because you're looking to get a contract? Or like, what did they do wrong that you don't like? You don't like the way they look? It's not good the way the modern is. And like, people have to understand what's happening here. Now you're being used. And it's the same thing for you guys and girls out in the street and for you commanding officers that are consistently playing with these misrepresented numbers. You get more of this. You're allowing more of this. Why does this keep happening? Because of you. You're allowing all of this stuff to grow. How are you coming out after Chi puts this out? This is Chiosei introducing this. I think it's January 26th of this year. Listen to Chi introduce the Curb Act.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Today, I am reintroducing Introduction 1176, or known as the Curb Act. The right to assembly and peaceful protest is enshrined clearly in the First Amendment of the Constitution. The NYPD Strategic Response Group has proven to consistently violate that right. this bill would restrict their ability to do so. I urge all my colleagues who share my commitment to the First Amendment and its protections to support this legislation. All New Yorkers deserve to exercise their right to protest and assemble, and they deserve to exercise this right with safety and dignity. I want to thank Michael Sadzitsky and Isabel Leyva of the New York Civil Liberties Union for their partnership and advocacy of this bill, and I urge my colleagues to sign on. Thank you, Madam President.
Recognizing Council.
So, I mean, could one person, and she, look, I know, we know you're listening to this, I'm on Donnie. Could you name me one time that the SRG showed up to a protest? Could you name me one time that the SRG showed up to a protest and just started locking people up, where they didn't take over streets and roadways and do any of that? Could anybody point me out one scenario where that happened? There hasn't been one time where the SRG showed up where people are protesting, not taking over streets, not taking over roadways, not taking over bridges and tunnels and critical infrastructure, and they just started locking people up. There's not one time. Show me one time, and I'll say, okay, maybe we could just change the way they operate, but that never happened. So there's absolutely no need to change. They get called in, which is a horrible policy, and I think they should be there from the beginning, but they get called in after you're no longer exercising your First Amendment rights and you're breaking law. So what's the problem here? You don't want a reactionary force to when people are breaking law. You don't want a reactionary force that could prevent acts of domestic or foreign terrorism. That's what she's saying. That's what Zohran Mamdani's saying. And the rest of you law enforcement officials out here, whether you're retired, you're active, you're in consulting, you're still in the business, you're anywhere around it, you're fucking allowing it. That's why it keeps happening. It's not because of the politicians. It's because of you. It's because of every single one of you.
Yeah, well said, John. So these are some of the restrictions that are being imposed by the Curb Act that she is now pushing, right? And what struck me about this is how, a lot of this is unnecessary because it's already being done. Okay. And where I will give them credit is about the long range acoustic devices, because but that's a whole other conversation. But there are things that really do need to be talked about in the open. But the other things here, like the usage of tear gas, is dumb because the NYPD doesn't use tear gas. And I came about this interview from post 2020. It's about the after action report, and this was Chief Hart giving an interview to the Police Executive Research Forum, and he basically states why the NYPD does not use tear gas. Okay, because again, most of these protests are done in densely populated areas with a lot of passerbys and people who would be impacted if tear gas were to go off. So the NYPD doesn't use that, even though it's, don't get me wrong, the option is there, but it has to be approved all the way at the top. Okay, and they're not likely to use it, considering, as Chief Hart says on here, the dense population of the city. Okay, so it's kind of stupid that he puts it in here. Okay. And as we go on further, I will go into the DOI's report regarding 2020 and why I believe a lot of the talking points that Che uses on here are from that report, even though in that report they also praise the SRG for their training and their discipline when it comes to protest. But Che is not bringing those points up, right? He wants to do the exact opposite of what the DOI actually says in the report, which they also say that one of the problems of the 2020 protests are that the NYPD certainly initially put a lot of cops who were untrained for protests. They were untrained, and in terms of managing protests, they put them to deal with the protesters. Okay, so the conditions that Che is pushing now are opposite of what the DOI recommends, even though he's clearly using the talking points of the DOI's report. So this is moronic. And again, I'll show you the exact points made by the DOI as we go further on.
It's interesting when Chiosei talks about the evidence and that it's proven that the SRG, in fact, has been an issue at these protests. When the reality is, and that's why I say, John, I agree that the NYPD leadership can't stop it, but they sure as hell could push back enough that they could actually slow it down and at least give some resistance, right? It has to be some active resistance. And that's why I believe every NYPD chief at this point is just complicit in allowing this to happen, especially your chief of department, Michael Petrie, who is an intelligent person in the law enforcement profession. And I won't take that away from him. But he is a jellyfish because he's allowing this to happen. He's sitting idle while this is happening. Now, I was present at these protests, and most of them turned into riots. And I was present and active in these riots during George Floyd riots, whatever name you want to give to it. And the lefties refused to call it a riot. And in fact, they were riots. They were not protests. And I witnessed actual protesters that were there. There were some protesters that came there with the mindset that they were actually going to protest and have their First Amendment activities and their civil liberties allowed and permitted. And I witnessed protesters there that were terrified. And there was, and thank God for the presence of the NYPD that was there to take action. And what City Council doesn't understand, or they do understand, they just want to lie to the public, is that this SRG is in fact a small component of the law enforcement profession that's taking action at these protests and riots. I would argue that most of the arrests are actually made by precinct cops or cops that are local or mobilized to these protests and riots. And SRG, in fact, is there to prevent these things, and it's much better off when they're there as a planned event, such as the bomb detonation that just happened. If SRG was there, present, and prepared, I do believe that would curb a lot of the issues that we have. You need specialized units. And here's the reality. Most of the cops, including myself, did not get any additional training on how to operate at these protests and riots. In fact, SRG was getting the training, which is necessary. And SRG was actually coaching and helping the cops of key locations and where to position themselves. And in fact, I do believe that John and myself showed the evidence several years ago where City Council testified, and also CCRB, about how brutal SRG was. And in fact, they were getting the least amount of complaints. And then they were most identifiable. And you just talked about the discipline, right? It's a discipline unit that's specialized for that. You need specialized units. I would argue in any profession or anything, someone that says that they could do everything, that's not really something you want, right? Like, for instance, in a contractor, if you call the contractor to your home and they say, well, I can do the plumbing and I can do the electrical and I can do the cabinets and you don't want someone who says they can do everything. You want a specialist who knows their job, because if they say that they can do everything, that's a lie. It's the same thing with policing. You don't want the cop to do everything because they're just stretched out. You need cops with specialized training to enforce potential issues while protecting your civil liberties. And again, I said I was at these protests and riots. There were people that terrified, they were scared, and thank God we were there.
But so it's not looking too good for you guys and girls in SRG. I'll tell you that. I'm picturing you guys get totally rebranded, and you're going to operate totally under this act, as well as, you know, the protest settlement agreement, because as Jessica Tisch said, you know, there's no need for the NYPD to change their protest posture, because everything went good. Because, hey, you guys got lucky and nobody died, you know, because the terrorists were incompetent. I don't know, man. I think, look, it is what it is. But I'll have a clean conscience. I won't be any less upset about it, but I'm going to have a clean conscience, because I've been yelling from the mountaintop. So is Eric. So is Marlon. We're leaving New York City vulnerable. We're doing it intentionally. Chiosei, the mayor, the police commissioner, Chief Edwards, everybody else, you've all been made well aware of what it is in reality versus your political rhetoric. And you are doubling down on absolutely stupidity and failure. So whatever happens, I won't make me any less upset, but it's just bound to happen. I personally believe that when the next terrorist attack happens after after all of this comes into place, where they totally remove the SRG, I personally believe, and I will be calling for everyone involved to be arrested. Everyone who signed off on this bill, everyone who operated under this bill and the leadership, I believe that their behavior is reckless. It's official misconduct, and they're intentionally leaving New York City residents vulnerable to terrorism. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's where my next advocacy will be, that these people should be in jail for intentionally doing this, because it was a no-brainer that it was going to happen. You're going to see the hundreds of times we've pointed it out in the media, online, on social media, and no one did anything to fix it. So blood will be on your hands, and unfortunately it will be on your hands.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to point out how these problems have been pointed out not only by us; it's been pointed out by the NYPD themselves. Okay, and let's go back to that interview I mentioned, right? So that interview was referencing the 2020 after action report that where the job and intel went into what was going on with the protesters, during that time frame, right? And some of the things they pointed out was that this is specifically in the interview between Chief Hart and the head of the what group did I say it was again? The head of the police forum. Anyway, right? You can see here, Chief Hart says that that there are opportunists who use the protesters as shield. They use legitimate First Amendment protected protests as a shield to do their dirt, right? And let's go to the after action report for a quick second. This is it. Okay. This is widely available on the internet, by the way, so I'm not sharing anything that's a secret. Okay. Right. But look what they says in it about those opportunists. They say they exploit otherwise peaceful demonstrations and mass gatherings with the aim of increasing violent clashes and exacerbating tensions. Okay. And we go further down in it. It says, notably among these tactics are the use of improvised incendiary devices like caustic acids, thermites, and fireworks. Okay. So here it is. The NYPD is telling you, okay, that at such peaceful protests, we have people who are looking to take advantage of the situation, hide behind the protesters, and then, use all sorts of devices that can cause harm to not just the cops, but the protesters themselves. Okay. So again, it's not just us telling you about it. Here, the NYPD, itself was telling you that. You see these logos here? This is counterterrorism. This is the Intel and the NYPD, of course, right? So the NYPD themselves was telling you the problems here. Okay. Let's go further in now. Now, here it is again. They're telling you anti-government extremists have employed and discussed various improvised explosive devices to cause structural damage to buildings and/or statues. This was going on in 2020. And as you can see, this was one of those RMPs that they threw a Molotov cocktail at. Think of it for a second. Che wants to remove SRG from protests when we already know these tactics are still being used. Okay, they're still being used, widely being used in places like Portland and the West Coast, right? But he wants to remove SRG. Okay,
It was used 2 weeks ago, dude, in New York City. Like it was not even like this is across the country. It was used 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, good point, John. Good point. So let's go a little bit further here, where they tell you some of the other weapons that were used in 2020. Okay, again, these tactics are still being used now. Okay, so here it is: spring-loaded knives, blunt objects, bricks. Okay, they're using makeshift shields, marbles, frozen paint, and chemical-filled objects. Okay, so do we think it's a wise idea to remove the unit that's specially trained to deal with situations like this? Again, in the DOI's report, which I'll go into next, specifically praises the SRG for being trained for these purposes. Okay, but he thinks it's a good idea to remove SRG, and the people on the job, including Tish and the upper echelon, are going to are they going to actually push back against this, or are they going to just sit there and take it when they want to go ahead and make life even more difficult for the boots on the ground?
Well, I think at this point, right, and that's why I say I think, I don't know if they're intentionally have this idea of being anti-American, but I think that their impact of their ideas at city council are anti-American. This idea that we want to strip the SRG of militarized weapons or tools to give a different appearance, not only does that hurt residents of New York City because of the perception, but that also puts the cops at a very precarious position and leaves more vulnerability. It just shows you how much bias and disdain that the city council has towards the police, because they want to put the police in a position where they're disarmed and at a disadvantage. And that's absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I say we look at city council members, we look at legislators throughout New York City and throughout blue cities in this country, and they look at cops as some type of peasants. And you look at blue cities throughout this country, we talked about on Wednesday, Marlon, and they all have the same common denominator. It's that this is anti-police rhetoric, this bias and disdain for policing. It's so driven and motivated to hate the police. And all these citizens, police decimated and turned to shit. And, and you have to ask yourself, like, who's voting for these people in city council? How do you care about these people? I've been to these protests. We all support protest. That's why we were police officers. We took an oath to support the Constitution, to support First Amendment rights. I believe in First Amendment, Second Amendment, which is why we allow trolls on this platform. But civil liberties, and I said it before, and I have to say it again, civil liberties and police law enforcement protection has to coexist. They're not opposites. And you kind of ask yourself, why are they trying to make such an impact to remove the tools that the NYPD has, to put police at a vulnerability, and also put the residents of New York City, and negate the fact that this bomb attack at Gracie Mansion was in fact a success on the part of domestic terrorism. If you look at it as domestic terrorism and also foreign terrorism, because there is some ISIS inspiration there, it was a success. It's just the bombs didn't detonate because, thank God, they were stupid and they were young and didn't have the experience, and really they were not capable to detonate these bombs properly. But if you look at the nomenclature of it, it was a success. They managed to drive from Pennsylvania to New York. They managed to get 2 IED explosives into this detail, into this protest. They managed to deploy them. They managed to even run away from the cops. And thank God, Officer Grant Polgarin was quick, swift, and took action and took them down. The reality is, it's people like Chiosei and the rest of city council that are making the police and the city less safe and more vulnerable from these draconian laws and bills that they constantly try to have passed that have no purpose. They're not purposeful. You have to ask yourself, it doesn't make sense. Why would you want to strip the NYPD from the tools? Why is it okay that you see community affairs? Because they have a soft look, a soft appearance. And that goes back to the emasculation of police. They want to have this soft appearance. But what does that soft appearance do? That soft appearance actually creates less of a presence of your police force, creates less of a presence of potential protection for your residents in New York City. But that's what they want. That's the ultimate goal, is to strip away. Why? Because it's the most tangible form of government is your boots on the ground. Tear away, strip away. And that's why I have a problem with the NYPD leadership of not putting back more opposition to this, and the unions also put more opposition, because many of these leaders that are there in the NYPD right now, they were there during these protests. They witnessed in George Floyd riots of how volatile they were. And those pictures that you showed, Marlon, are more real than they get. And those tactics that they used then, they're using now. And as John pointed out, this was only 2 weeks ago. This is so fresh, and yet they're still pushing this bill. Just shows you they just don't care. They have no compassion for the people that they are supposed to serve.
Yeah, so S. Cologne asked, am I hearing this right? Did they vote to get rid of SRG? So they haven't voted to get rid of SRG. Eric Adams and Ed Caban signed in the protest settlement agreement, which said that SRG can't be staffed at protests until the protests turn illegal, until violence already happens, which is ridiculous. But the protest settlement agreement does leave a wiggle room when violence is expected that you can then deploy them, which Chief Aaron Edwards failed to do. So that's that. Now, Chiosei in the New York City Council is introducing a bill called the Curb Act. And what he's looking to do is keep SRG out of First Amendment activities, and, you know, have them ban them from doing kettling, all this same nonsense that basically was in that protest settlement agreement. So that hasn't been voted on yet, but that's coming up. And, you know, I think what's real scary about the Curb Act, though, is he's saying First Amendment activity. So basically, it's not just saying that the SRG can't go to protest. It's saying any type of mass gathering, whether it's a parade, whether it's an event. These are all First Amendment activities. So, and again, most people don't even understand what they're talking about. They use language that they don't understand. You know, I really got nothing to say about it other than when the next terrorist attack happens, you know, there should be a lot of individuals in law enforcement, in leadership, and that did the planning of these events, and the politicians that pushed this narrative and this rhetoric that kept us from having competent response and a counterterrorism stance at protests, at every other type of event. It's not reckless endangerment. It's reckless, but it's negligent homicide. Like, they should be in jail for the rest of their lives because they're intentionally leaving New York City residents vulnerable to a terrorist attack. They're intentionally leaving protesters vulnerable. The people that they're claiming to care about, vulnerable to a terrorist attack, vulnerable to violence, and they're intentionally leaving police officers vulnerable to it. So, I mean, like, I'm not gonna be shy to be saying these people should be locked up for negligent homicide. Like, they should be locked up for manslaughter, and they should serve a lot of time in jail because it's purely reckless what's happening. I have nothing else on this topic. I just think it's pure stupidity. We've said it over and over and over again. There is no reason that you could sit there and say that we don't believe that counterterrorism should be deployed at protests or at New Year's Eve. It's a complete 180. What we're doing right now in the NYPD is a complete 180 to what we've been doing since post 9/11. Our protest posture needs to change immediately. And if it doesn't, everyone involved in the planning and all the politicians should be charged with homicide when the next terrorist attack happens. Because it's not a matter of if, it's when. Special Hagen brought up Zohran Mamdani. Will he ever get a security clearance? Look, great question. But here's the problem. New Yorkers did not care that Bill de Blasio never had a security clearance, and he kept getting removed from him from all the corruption scandals. Nobody ever cared that Eric Adams, for almost the entirety of his term, did not have a security clearance. Oh, doesn't matter. He's just a mayor. He doesn't need that. Oh, you know what else New Yorkers didn't care about? His entire upper echelon of his NYPD also did not have a security clearance. We're flying the plane blind. We've been doing it for over a decade. We have no idea what's going to happen. Like, this has become acceptable where we have these corrupt individuals in charge of New York City and in charge of the New York City Police Department, and they can't even be trusted that they won't give information to foreign actors. They have they have zero integrity, and everybody's okay with it. I agree with you 100%, but I like Zohran Mamdani should have his security clearance, and if he doesn't qualify for it, he shouldn't be qualified to be the mayor of New York City. Same thing with Eric Adams. Remove them. What are we doing here? Well, you know, I keep flashing back to the day that, you know, Kathy Hochul did a press conference, like, her and Tish were jumping up and down saying how low transit crime was. And then, like, a day later, she goes running to New York City and they flood the trains with National Guard. Everyone's like, why was that? I'm like, well, they just told you that crime was down. So it's not about crime. They flooded it because Kathy Hochul got information that there was going to be a terrorist attack in New York City, a mass terrorist attack in transit, and she couldn't tell the mayor in New York City, and she couldn't tell the NYPD, so she sent the National Guard there to alleviate the threat. I mean, like, it was clear as day, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, no, I like Eric Adams, though, because he came to my Christmas party, and he shook my hand, and I took a picture with him. You know, I like all these guys in the NYPD because they're nice guys. You know, they say nice things to me. You know, they support the police. They tweeted a couple of cool things online. All right, well, they have no federal security clearance and they can't be trusted. I don't know. I'm done with it. Look, manslaughter. That's what they should get charged with, all of them.
Yeah, the problem is they know better, and they're still going forward with this, and the people that should be speaking up about it aren't doing anything about it. And you know, I'm gonna praise. I saw a comment in there from Chief Lukash about Chuck Wexler, who was interviewing Chief Hart in that interview I showed you, and I agree. I mean, that explains some of the questions that were asked in that interview, right? But again, Chief Hart is now in charge of intel and counterterrorism, so he gave a great interview back then, and he explained a lot of things. And I'm hoping you're pushing back, Chief. Okay. Because I
haven't heard him, so he's not. So I'll tell you that. So he's not.
Yeah,
I haven't heard him. Don't know him. Who's in charge of intel? Rebecca Weiner. She's all good with this because we're worried about white supremacy in New York City. You know, don't worry about it. Only the first like 500 shootings. I forget what the number we put up. Whatever that was. It was all. You know, she's still worried about white supremacy. You know, not about terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Marlon, I just want to say. That's why I say they're all complicit. We don't hear them. And if anyone wants to say, well, they're silent right now, they can't say anything, they're trying to do what they can do behind closed doors, that's not good enough. When we talk about lives are at stake, because the next terrorist attack is not, you know, potentially, if it's going to happen, it will happen. And it's just a matter of how many times can we go before we get before luck runs out. The strategy of luck is not gonna last forever.
Yeah. So just to quickly touch into it, this was the DOI's report in regards to the 2020 protests and, you know, the George Floyd protests.
Yeah, that thing was useless, by the way.
Yeah. But there's some key points in here that I want to point out where they said that one of the points they made was that you know, a lot of the NYPD's ability to respond to the protest was undermined by several things, including the deployment of officers lacking recent training for protest responses and the inadequate usage of community affairs officers, right? Keep that in mind, because again, if we get rid of SRG, who's going to replace SRG? Isn't it not going to be officers lacking the kind of training that SRG has for these situations, right? Isn't that now what's going to happen? Okay, and let's also go to this here.
That's the plan, dude, and that's what she was actually saying. Well, we had community affairs guys there, and they stopped the bomb. Like, no, they didn't.
That is the plan.
Got blown up. They picked the bomb. That
is the plan. That's what I was saying, Marlon. During the George Floyd riots, and I was present there for the riots, and they want to call them protests. They were out of control. They were so volatile. I even saw. That's why I got on top of a car just to get a better vantage point. That was an iconic picture. 3 idiots in the crowd. They were trying to pick up a wheelbarrow to throw at the cops. So don't tell me that we're there just to suppress First Amendment activities, because there were people in that crowd that wanted to show up there to protest. They thought they were coming there to have a legitimate protest. They were terrified, because I remember there was a girl that was getting swallowed in the crowd, and she was terrified. And I remember I hovered over her, and I shielded her and took her out of the crowd. I mean, and that's what I said before. We didn't have any additional training. These riots came so fast, they came so quick, and we were just responding. We didn't have any additional training. So you want cops that don't have additional training? I think we did the best job that we could with the cause we were dealt with. But you don't want cops to have extra training. Just think about the mindset of city council here. You want to protect these people so that they can enjoy their First Amendment rights, but you don't want the cops to be trained. Untrained people are far more dangerous than trained people. That is a fact.
Yeah, And look what it's further states down here. The DOI repeats a point made by an executive. He says that the SRG, the contrast between SRG and other police officers in this is that SRG are more disciplined and more trained than regular cops. Some of the officials interviewed by DOI noted the lack of training they had received specific to policing protests, and at least one explicitly acknowledged additional training would have been useful. This is even the supervisors were untrained. Okay. And again, this is what they want to return to. Okay. Chi is using the talking points on here, while at the same time, he wants to bring us back to the situation that even gave them a platform to begin with. Okay. So let's go further in there. Okay. And it says, on a positive note, the new training, which came out after the lawsuits were brought forward, right, represents the first time DOI observed a direct reference to crowd psychology in NYPD training related to policing protests other than that provided to SRG. Again, they're telling you how SRG is the best trained unit to handle these protests. And here it is, Che is saying that the best thing, he's saying that they want to help people express their First Amendment right to protest. But you're clearly not helping them if you're removing the SRG, okay? You're not, because again, you're going to get untrained officers who are not specifically trained to deal with protesters at protests, and you're going to get more incidents that go sideways, okay, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, okay, by doing that. So how exactly is what Che doing? Is it for the benefit of people?
It's for the benefit of the terrorists. It's for the benefit of the bad actors. It's for the benefit of causing chaos, maiming people, injuring people, and murdering people. I mean, like, it's that simple. And the other thing that's not in that report, but even the CCRB testified on it, the SRG is more easily identifiable than the rest of the department. Excuse me. At these protests. So, I mean, the whole thing is insane. You heard it here. New York City DOI does a whole investigation, an entire report, and instead of taking the advice of what DOI is saying, they're reversing it, doubling down, and exposing New York City to a terrorist attack. That's what it is. It's negligent homicide, dude. It's going to be negligent homicide. I don't know that anyone's going to get brought up for it, but God help you if I ever become the mayor of New York City. Because I'll tell you right now, God help you if I ever become the district attorney. Because I'll tell you right now, you all deserve jail. Because you know exactly what you're doing. We warned you. We warned you till we're blue in the teeth. And the majority of people in law enforcement are staying absolutely silent about it because they just need their next dollar. Yeah, blood's going to be on your hands, unfortunately. And more than likely, it's going to be people that you love too, your own loved ones too. So it's a damn shame. It's absolutely a damn shame.
It also shows you by this that City Council and Zohran Mamdani, who's now the mayor of New York City, they're moving in lockstep together, right? Because what did Chio say that? Well, the community affairs officers handled it, right? Because, and I believe, in my opinion, that it kind of segues into this Department of Community Safety that they want to have, even though the evidence that has been shown time and time again shows that these community safety team is just not going to work. It's going to be actually completely ineffective and actually make things more volatile than they are right now. But the reason why I make that comparison is because Chio will say the community affairs handle it. They want community affairs presence because it's a softer touch. And community affairs is kind of on par with the Department of Community Safety team. And that's why they segue into, they want to remove SRG and get totally into this Department of Community Safety. But what it does at the same time is strip away from the NYPD's presence and make the city far more vulnerable. And what they're not telling you is how volatile these protests are. Most of these protests, I mean, before Eric Adams was in office, protests, is something that happened every day in New York City, right? Some protests do get volatile, but something that the NYPD is very comfortable in controlling crowds. But these protests have become more volatile as we move forward and require a specialized response. And that specialized response is SRG, a unit that has the gear, the tools, and the training and the preparation to handle it. But the protest settlement was just a chip away from it. And the Curb Act, which I think, John, you pointed out, it pretty much is the same thing as the protest settlement. It just kind of solidifies it even more. I think this guy right here is a low testosterone idiot. And I think he's a danger to the residents of New York City, and shameful on people that they actually vote for him. Because the reality is, every time you vote for someone like this who's anti-American, you give them the power to disarm the NYPD and put the city at much more of a position that they're vulnerable to terrorist attack. It's hard to believe that here we are, 2026, 25, almost 25 years after the attacks of 9/11, that we're actually here. I mean, how old is Chiosei? Was he even alive? Is he 25 years old? Was he alive during 9/11?
He's a young kid. I don't think so.
I don't even think he was alive then. I can't believe how far we've come. And you have to even ask yourself, like, how educated is someone like Chiosei or these people in city council? Like, don't you even read about what happened in 9/11 and how it changed the city and changed the country and changed the world forever, and how we have to police different? And terrorism has to be at the forefront of policing, especially in New York City, especially now. I can't believe that we've actually gotten to this point.
Yeah.
Crazy. Sorry. I didn't know you were going to go.
No, just quickly. I saw a comment from Detective Nolan here. He said the NYPD is being defanged. They absolutely are, Detective Nolan. It specifically says in the DOI report something about they talk about the facilitation mindset, okay? Right? And how the SRG should move to basically the NYPD should police First Amendment protests with the facilitation method, which is basically amounts to letting the people, just let them do whatever, okay? Rather than trying to control their movements, okay? And they reference kettling, in the report as well. But here's the problem with this now. The DOI's report also says that one of the biggest problems was that the NYPD lacked a clearly defined strategy tailored to responding to large-scale protests, okay? And this is one of the reasons why things went out of hand in the beginning, okay? It says, although the NYPD committed substantial resources to policing the protesters, multiple officials stated that the initial deployment of officers at the beginning of the protest was inadequate. By the way, where else did we see that? We saw that 2 weeks ago, okay? So it says in which officers commented on the lack of sufficient personnel, including supervisors. The officers further noted the chaos and confusion created by both staffing issues and deployments to unfamiliar places with unfamiliar colleagues and unfamiliar supervisors. This is what happens when the cops work in the detail, are cops who don't work together. They don't know each other. They're working with unfamiliar supervisors and they're untrained. Okay. So again, the DOI's report is stating that the NYPD should move to the facilitation method, right? And they also praise the NYPD supervisors who took a knee with the protesters, right? Right? But they're saying we should move to this mentality, while at the same time telling you that their initial response was inadequate, and that's why things went out of hand in the beginning. So they absolutely are trying to defang the police department, okay? And it's clearly in here, and you can see it right now with what Che is trying to push. I mean, this city, I just don't understand with something that happened with that terrorist incident two weeks ago, why this is still being pushed when we already know that New York City is getting a bad image right now with the amount of people being pushed on the subway tracks and all that's been going on in Times Square. The city's getting a bad reputation for a crime from tourists. And considering what happened 2 weeks ago, why do you want to push this now? Okay, why do you want to push this now when tourism revenue is already down? Okay, it just doesn't make any sense at all. But like John and Eric said before, it's agenda. You okay? So
I got nothing else. You guys got anything else on this?
I just want to say, 9/11 changed the identity of New York City, changed the identity of the entire country, changed policing, it changed the culture. It's something that, like Chio say, and most city council members have never lived through and really don't understand. It's just really sad that we've gotten to this point that we ignore 9/11. We ignore how it reshaped the entire country. And I think you make a great point, which is why those people should be held responsible. God forbid something happens. And unfortunately, it will happen. A terrorist attack will happen and luck will run out. They should be held accountable. I'm with you, brother.
That's it. Yeah. Blood on their hands. Square 103 says New York City is not cutting counterterrorism so much as they are trying to add oversight and transparency around how NYPD handles protests and uses surveillance. So removing the SRG actually removes your counterterrorism response at a protest. And you already saw that 3 weeks ago. So it's absolutely cutting counterterrorism. So if you're against it at protest, get out there on the street, protest to remove it from New Year's Eve and from Thanksgiving, and then we'll also add your name to the list for negligent homicide, and because the blood will be on your hands as well. Because removing a unit just because you don't like the way they're dressed or because they're effective at a time when people take over streets, roadways, critical infrastructure, and perform acts of civil disobedience is not adding transparency. It's not adding oversight. It's emasculating the counterterrorism response in the NYPD. So I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Would they have a problem with SRG being deployed to the West Indian Parade? I find it hard to believe that's a First Amendment activity. I find it hard to believe that anyone's going to be in opposition to SRG responding to the West Indian Parade, and that's a First Amendment activity. It just shows where their heads are. This is absolutely ridiculous. But it just shows, like people like Chio say, they claim they care about black people, but they don't care about black people. They just care about the elites. They just want, and they have their agenda. Because I'm sure if SRG was being deployed to West Indian Parade or some other parades in New York City that have a tendency, like maybe the Puerto Rican Parade, I'm sure they don't have a problem with that. But these First Amendment activities, they do.
Only it says all First Amendment activities, but she's only talking about certain First Amendment.
Exactly.
And look, the same protesters that were protesting throughout 2020 are still out on the streets of New York today protesting. I mean, this is their job. This is professional. And don't forget that half of those agitators, guess what happens when they get arrested? Guess whose office they contact? Oh, yeah, that's right. They contact your office, right? Because we got that on social media too, right? We have your little group chat that we put out a few years ago, right? Remember that? So don't forget that. You're literally enabling bad actors, and you're opening New York City up to counterterrorism. Manslaughter, negligent manslaughter. Blood will be on your hands of thousands of people.
Yeah. Remember, again, the after-action report clearly states of these opportunists who look to hide behind protests, right, and exploit otherwise peaceful demonstrations and mass gatherings with the aim of increasing violent clashes, okay, and while using tactics that include IEDs, okay, so it's all in there for you, okay. You cannot remove counterterrorism attachment to protesters. You cannot, because as we said before, protests are an easy target for opportunists, for terrorists, for anybody who wants to make a political statement. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think next topic. Sam Antar put out a scathing report yesterday. Jessica Tisch got a lot of explaining to do. The media has a lot of explaining to do because there's only been one media outlet, namely the finest Unfiltered, that's been telling you that, in fact, crime's not down. There's been a huge misrepresentation of crime in New York City, and he labels out exactly what that is. So what his report exposed is he went off of a Vital City report that had came out recently, And that was showing the data and how crime data changes over times. And that publication was basically trying to make the assertion that, well, it's not fraud, it's not manipulation, this is just how it is. But obviously it piqued Sam's interest, and he's like, wait a minute, this actually is a huge misrepresentation. So what he said is, like, the NYPD is claiming that they have these historic lows in crime, but the lows that they're talking about, the records that they're breaking, remember we played you the video where Jessica Tish says, I break records. I like to break records every year, and I tend to break records this year too, right? So these historic lows and these records, they're not actually measuring them up against city crime overall. They're measuring them up only against the spike years, 2020 to 2022. So when you look at the reality of New York City crime, 2025 versus 2019, major crimes up 27%. When you look at violent crime, it's up 30.8%, 2019 to 2025. What these records are is them just going on the pandemic years. First, they wanted to not count the pandemic years. Now they're only counting the pandemic years. Felony assaults since 2019 up 44.2%. Does that sound like history to you people? Because it's clearly not. So in 2019, major crimes, New York City took 95,606. In 2025, they took 121,652. Violent crimes, they took 36,143 in 2019. In 25, they took 47,270. Felony assaults, they rose about 10,000. They were 20,600 in 2019 to 29,800 in 2025. So you're not at historic lows. There was absolutely no records breaking. As a matter of fact, it shows that New York City crime is significantly worse than where it was prior to COVID. And that's what everyone knows. That's the real reality. That's the reality. What every single person in New York City knows is that crime, quality of life is down. Crime has skyrocketed since prior to that pandemic, and the quality of life has diminished since prior to that pandemic. And it's continuing to rise every year while we have a police department and you have all your trusted media outlets telling you, in fact, crime's down and they're breaking records. And it's absolutely wrong. And the thing is, like, the other thing that he pointed out is 95 straight months. Every single month, NYPD crime stats were later revised upward, and for 95 straight months. So it's not like if it was organic, don't you think sometimes crime would go down? If it wasn't being manipulated, don't you think sometimes they would audit at the end of the month and they would find out that, oh yeah, crime went down? No. But the thing is, they only looked at 95 months. And for 95 months, at the end of the month, guess what? After they reported record lows and they reported making history and they reported how great they did, guess what? Well, actually, that's not really the truth of the matter. It actually, crime was up, right? So 95 straight months. So after the narrative's already set and they never go backwards. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to say they never go backwards because they do go backwards and they compare to the misrepresented number, not to the actual number. So he talks about that. He also talks about the rule change on midstream on hate crime reporting. And he said that, in fact, the way that NYPD is accounting for hate crimes going forward may, in fact, be the better way. But the way they did it now, there's nowhere to tell how high hate crimes are right now because of how they did the accounting. You have to read his full report on whitecollarfraud.com to get into that. But he breaks it down great on that. The other thing that he points out there is he points out that transit crime, right? Transit crimes being reported as it's flat. It's like it's not up, it's not down. But at the same time, transit crimes being reported as flat, 911 calls in transit are up 30%. I mean, anybody believe that? Anybody believe that there's not this let's not take reports? Calls are up 30%, but crime's flat. Yeah, it's not only is it not likely, it's impossible. There is a high misrepresentation of numbers, and there is fraud going on with the numbers. Clear fraud, because there's no integrity in crime reporting, there's no oversight, and there's no transparency. The public deserves transparency. Instead, all you're getting is a public relations spin, and you're having a billionaire myth build themselves on the great work they're doing, when in fact, it's much worse than it was prior to her stepping in.
You gotta laugh. Chief Shell and Chief Shell, great name by the way, in the chat says crime is down. Just ask Tish. That's exactly spot on. And by the way, Juju weighed in also. And Juju, here's what Juju says. And I think this is interesting, right? Juju says you're gonna believe Sam Antar in 2026. Hey, listen, if you don't like Sam Antar, you don't have to. But we just believe what our eyes are seeing. This is the evidence right here. This is the NYPD's own numbers, Juju. These aren't a lie. We can't just ask Tish. These are actual numbers right here that Sam Antar uses. So, yeah, do we believe Sam Antar? Yeah, we believe Sam Antar because we have the evidence right in front of our faces right here. This is complete semantics what the NYPD is doing. We're talking about 95 months. That's close to an entire decade, and we haven't even went back that far. This is probably going on for 900, for 20 years. This is a long time of playing semantics. And John's, you spot on, brother. You would say to yourself, if this is organic, when they would fix the numbers on a particular random month, you would think the numbers would go down. It just shows you it's not organic. And I always said that with ComStat. I said it's interesting, right? How does the city manage to do that, right? You would figure in 2000, let's say, for instance, rhetorically speaking, if it's 2019 in January and we have so many crimes and then we get to 2020, how do we manage to have around the same amount of crimes or less? Because they're always monitored. And because they're monitored with such a microscope and playing such semantics, it's never organic. And it's interesting also how Jessica Tish often, when it refers to crime, she'll talk about the pandemic era, that they're not going to apply it to that because it's the pandemic era and that shouldn't count. But now, to get to the low numbers that she wants to provide, the historic low numbers, they utilize the pandemic era. Again, this is complete semantics. It's a complete lie. And here's the numbers. So shout out to you, Sam Antar. The contribution you make to the citizens of New York City is outstanding. It's complete redemption because you're given the real numbers and the raw numbers here that the NYPD is failing to give because they want to gaslight everyone and lie to them. So Juju, you're a liar just like that they are. You're playing the same game. You're full of shit. And these numbers are full of shit. And thank you to Sam Antar for putting out the real numbers. Thank you.
95 months. I would consider
95.
that a really hard pattern, right? Is that a pattern? I thought in the police department, we look at patterns of things, right? Like there's a pattern. Something's wrong here. Like something's like blatantly wrong. I would think after like 12 months, we would have came up to that fraud pattern, but I guess not.
No, it took 95 months till we catch it. Yeah. So that's why I said every commander in the NYPD is a jeweler. Every commander in the NYPD is a magician. They know how to get rid of crimes. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So yeah, Juju, do we listen? Do we believe Sam Antar? Maybe you're a professor. Why don't you look at the report and tell us what you believe?
The numbers are the numbers. I absolutely I don't believe Sam Antar. I believe the NYPD's numbers that he's using. The NYPD's numbers up, major crimes up 30% since 2019. You're pushing history, and I can guarantee you this: at the next press conference, there's going to be little slight comments made about Sam Antar's reporting. They're not going to name him. They're not going to say anything. They're going to say the critics say this, but we're breaking records. It's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. She's gonna say conjecture,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Watch out. Wait for her to use those words again. Sam Antar points out, and why shouldn't we trust Sam Antar? Right? Keep in mind, Sam Antar has been at the forefront of a lot of things, including, as you know, the issues with Letitia James. Okay, right? But again, Sam points out that it's the NYPD's own numbers that are showing the discrepancies and the problems here. Okay, and again, he's pointing out how the quality of life division report, the citywide quality of life stat, the discrepancies between that and ComStat, and how they tell you how, if you look at how those discrepancies don't make sense in light of what the department is telling you right now. And again, we also told you years ago that, you know, they have nothing, they don't have any ideas how to fix the problem, and nor do they want to do the difficult things to fix the problems, because again, doing the difficult things means people aren't getting their crumbs. Okay, people aren't getting their crumbs. There's no nepotism. There's no cronyism. There's a job who'd look at itself and reflect on itself and try to be more efficient and fix the inherent problems that it has. They don't want to do the difficult things. So the difficult things are what would eventually help solve the overall problems. Not doing the difficult things means the only thing they have left is propaganda, spin, and PR manipulation. Okay, and narrative adjustment. Okay, that's all they have left. Okay, and you're seeing it right here. Okay, and you know, if you're on Twitter, also you can just go check out Sam Ayanto's Twitter, and he gives a good summary of the report itself. But we put the link in the chat, and you guys really should read those reports. Okay, and again, one of the problems we have is that people on the job especially are not up on the news, the real news. Okay, you should be, because don't think for a second that at some point this stuff isn't going to come to a head, because everybody's noticing that things have changed in the city, and people aren't stupid. They can only do this for so long until this becomes a major issue, and it may come to you as well if you're that guy in a precinct who's doing as he's told, okay, instead of doing what's right. So something to keep in mind.
I just want to say, John, before you go, I think this is quite interesting. I didn't hear about this, but I'm going to look into this. Han says there's a reason why crime analysis now falls under a chief at one police plaza and not the commanding officers of the precincts. They can fudge the numbers easily. I didn't even know they did that.
They did it like 2-3 years ago. They moved all of them to one police plaza. Like
I didn't even know that. That's really
interesting. Them all under LaPetri.
Well, that makes sense now too. I mean, well, it makes sense. I left 3.5 years ago. Actually, a little more than that now, and I didn't even know that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward, Hans. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah. So you know, they're making history, just not actual history. You know. So the perception versus reality campaign rolls on. Crime remains up in New York City. It's up over 30% since 2019. So it is what it is. So Juju, you can say whatever you like. It just is what it is. You know, you can't debate us. You know, same thing with the other podcasts that are out there. They said a lot of stuff. We'll talk about that right at the end. They said a lot of stuff that made absolutely no sense. They had no clue what they were talking about. The one thing they weren't open to do is come on and debate us, or have us on and debate us. You know why? Because they don't know what the F they're talking about. That's why. So, but we'll get on that in a minute. Last topic before we get on that. This comes out from the Gothamist. NYPD is required to protect New Yorkers. City is not required to protect New Yorkers. City lawyers argue in court. So I don't know if you guys remember, I put this video out a while back, and I was like giving kudos to the cop. This woman was supposedly at a pro-Palestinian protest outside of a synagogue. She claimed she wasn't. Other people claim she wasn't. I don't know if she was, if she wasn't. I don't even care. I just know a group of men were chasing her, throwing stuff at her. I put the video out to give kudos to the great work of this member of the SRG, who was basically protecting this woman against a violent mob. And more than likely, I think politically, he probably agrees with the violent mob more than he agrees with this female, if in fact she was outside of the synagogue, outside of a house of worship, disrupting services. But it didn't matter, because he put his life out there anyway, and he still fought back, and he fought this huge mob of hundreds of people. I was attacked online for weeks after that, saying I'm an anti-Semite, all this other stuff, just because the violent mob, the cowards that were striking this woman and throwing things at her, happened to be Jewish. I took all the flack because I don't care. This cop did a great job. She has a right to peacefully protest, and I don't agree with anyone showing up at any type of house of worship. I don't care if it's the Church of Satan. You don't belong disrupting people's ability. Freedom of religion is a foundation in this country. However, as grown men in packs, striking women and throwing things at them, you're a coward. I don't care if we're of the same faith or of a different faith. I could care less. You could call me whatever you like. This officer did what he could to protect this woman. He actually had officers come there. They put her in the car. She, as a result, is suing the NYPD, saying the NYPD did not properly protect her. Now, she was struck. She did have items thrown at her, and no one was arrested as a result of this. In her lawsuit, city's seeking a motion to dismiss, as they do on every lawsuit. In her motion to dismiss, they're saying that the NYPD is not required to protect New Yorkers. City law. I think that is a horrible precedent. And I think this is the basis of a great argument to defund and emasculate the police even further. I don't know what anyone's thinking. I don't know what the NYPD or the city lawyers are thinking, and I don't know who's going along with this. But if this is a language that they use in any type of lawsuit, this is basically saying we don't need the police department ever. Might as well just get rid of them and have the Department of Community Safety. Horrible precedent. Shame on whoever came up with this.
You know what? When you look at what's happening now, right? You look at what Chase is proposing, right? And you look at this as well. You know, to me, it's a dangerous cocktail, right? So again, this is what Chase is proposing. Effectively, to sideline any sort of active policing of protest. Again, and let me go back to the DOI report quickly. This is the facilitation mindset that I mentioned. Okay, it's basically just let them, don't control the protests, just let them go on and protest, which is a problem. Okay, because as we said before, there are opportunists who want to hide behind protesters while starting ish at the protest, right? So when you combine that with what's happening now, it's a dangerous brew because because you're effectively on your own at protests. You know, they already want to sideline protest cops from being proactive. Now they're telling you that we don't have an obligation to protect you from the crowd. So again, that's a dangerous brew that's happening. And there's a point that's mentioned in the article that basically it's basically that the police are what's going to happen is arbitrary policing of protests. Okay, and the point is mentioned here that basically that the thinking is because she was a pro-Palestinian protester, right, that she wasn't entitled to the same protection as another protester, and which again is selective. Okay, and that's very dangerous when you consider everything that's happening now. And I brought this up to John that this is even more dangerous if you're in a overwhelmingly blue city and you want to protest a cause that say falls more on the right, on conservative side, because what's going to happen to you when some lunatic, right, objects to your protest? Okay, I think that this specifically, what's happening now is we're seeing a dangerous brew that's even more harmful for those on the right or the minority protesters in a majority, in a political majority city, that being a blue city.
So I thought this was so interesting when I saw this one. So I love Supreme Court cases. That's always my thing, right? To jump into Supreme Court cases, and that's it's always been my forte. And I thought immediately when I saw this, I said, this is a twist of the truth, and this is just plain semantics. So what the duty of the police have in any city in this country, especially New York City, is to protect and serve the people as a whole. But what they did was they took out and they twist the truth by saying that they don't have a duty to protect her, right? Because what it says in this key elements, there's a case called Warren versus District of Columbia. There's one Deshani versus Winnebago County. And there's one of Town of Castle of Rock versus Gonzalez. And what these cases talk about is that the police don't have a duty to protect someone as a person, as an individual, right? If there's special interest, right? We can't protect someone because they're specifically in custody. We can't specifically say, you know what, like what John Shell said, right? He took care of Sid Rosenberg's friends. So technically you can't say, oh, Sid Rosenberg can't say, hey, listen, I have this friend who needs police protection. Can you have a car stay in front of their house for 5 weeks? That's something that we can't do. So they twisted the truth and they used semantics. So that woman was part of that protest. Whether she was protesting or counter-protest, she was part of the whole situation. So the police do have a duty to protect her because she was part of the whole situation. What they did was they twisted the truth and played semantics by using the analogy I'm giving you, right? We can't say, hey, listen, Marlon lives in Brooklyn at this location, and because he's a member of the Finest Unfiltered, he's getting some threats, so we need a car to stay in front of the house for weeks. That would be a special interest thing. Now, could the police offer it in a situation like that? Yes, but do they have a duty to do it? No. But they have a duty to protect people as a whole. What are your thoughts on that, Marlon?
I think you're spot on, Eric. I think it's a disingenuous argument being used by the corporate counsel right now. And again, let me go back to Sam Antel's report now. Now, I found this very interesting because it not just relates to the statistics, but it relates to just legal arguments made by the city. Okay. The city, Sam Antel points out how the department changed the rules mid-game. And this struck me because where have we seen this before? We've seen this in a lot of ways. We're all here because the city changes the rules mid-game, you know? I mean, when I came on, I don't recall ever signing something that said I got to take a experimental medical treatment, right? Do you guys remember doing that? I don't, right? But the city loves doing that, and here we see them doing it again, and they're using they have a disingenuous argument as to where they're trying to manipulate a case law in their favor, and it's just again it's not honest, and it's what they do because we've seen this before. Oh,
John, I don't know if you catch John, when you stepped away, we were talking about. So I had looked up and I found several Supreme Court cases that apply to what they're talking about because I believe what they're doing is they're twisting the truth and they're playing semantics because the police have a duty to protect their citizens as a whole. What they can't do is they can't protect someone because they have special interests, like Sid Rosenberg's friends. John Shell can't call the chief department, right? And he can't say, hey, one of Sid Rosenberg's friends is being threatened, so we're going to have a police car stay there for weeks. We can't protect people as a special interest. So that's what they're doing. I believe that they're twisting the truth in this case with this woman because she was part of a whole incident, part of a protest or counter protest. So that's where I think they're twisting the truth and trying to play semantics. What are your thoughts?
No, I think they're using that language. I think they're going to use that language. I mean, dude, I'm still in litigation with them under the motion to dismiss. And I still haven't got a ruling. Like, I couldn't even believe the city attorneys. Like, I was like, this is what you sent? So I have like 15 points to my case. They didn't argue one. I mean, and again, I still think the courts are corrupted and my case will get thrown out. Everyone else that has went in front of Manhattan Supreme with a case like mine, it's got thrown out that same day. I'm going on almost a year now where I'm still waiting for a decision from the judge. And I personally just think that she's looking for any reason that she could find to throw my case out. That's what I believe. Why would it take a year to make a decision? And we had an attorney for New York City come up and not argue one point. I don't think that they're too good and too smart. If this is language they used in this is definitely language they're used. The only reason it's coming to light now is because the lefties are mad about how it's being used. If it was being used for like a protester that was protesting against the vaccine mandate or something, you would never see this in any media, not mainstream. But I think this is the language that they use. I do. And you know, Chief Lukash pointed it out here. Our mission statement is we're there to preserve life. Our mission statement's where to preserve life, but we have no duty to protect. You know, it makes no sense. And the other thing that you brought up with Shell went viral 2 nights ago for saying that like he had a long-standing policy that any friend of Sid Rosenberg doesn't get a summons. I'm like, you know, like he doesn't understand like the weight of his words. He just doesn't get it. He thinks he's just talking crap. Dude, you were the chief of department of the largest municipal police force in the world, bro. Everything you said, it went completely viral. There were numerous articles written about it. They're calling the NYPD. The NYPD has to be like, there was no policy like that we put out about Sid Rosenberg. It was ridiculous, dude. You know, smarten up, John. You know, it was funny. I did get a good laugh out of it, though. I did.
You know, John, when you're sitting on that bar stool, sometimes you say things that really don't, you know, the truth comes out, though. It's called truth serum. So that must be the truth. That's what I think. If you were sitting on that bar stool, that's the truth.
Yeah. And you know, the fact of the matter is like officers have discretion and, you know, people joke. You know what I mean? Like I've said a lot of things. Oh, I'm going to let you go because of this. It was a joke. Half the time I didn't even know what I was saying. I was just running my mouth, you know, just, hey, look, slow down, you know? So police officers have discretion. People are making a big deal out of it. Really wasn't a big deal. I know a lot of you guys in the chat is asking who's erasing the comments. We don't erase the comments. So anything you're having a problem with, that's YouTube or whatever other platform that you're on right now. Has nothing to do with us. I don't erase comments. Marlon doesn't erase comments. Eric doesn't erase comments. We're not another show. We're not, you know, we don't care. You guys can say whatever you want. You even see, you guys say a lot of bad shit about us. We talk about it. We bring it up on the screen for everybody else to see. We don't care. We don't get butthurt.
We find it hilarious.
We're not removing anybody's comments. If you did, we say it. Like when people get crazy and they take over the chat, we tell you, slow down or we're gonna put you in a timeout. And even then, we still welcome you back. So,
yeah, we never actually banned anybody. Not even Juju or Nin.
I love Juju. I wish we had 10 million more Jujus. Juju's a loyal listener.
That's true. At least he's not a closet listener. He lets everybody know.
Yeah.
His favorite show is The Finest Unfiltered.
And don't worry, Juju. You're good with us, bro. This is a safe space for you. No lawsuits from The Finest Unfiltered to Juju. Don't worry about it. Yeah. We don't sue our critics.
No litigation here.
Yeah. Just to keep you guys in the know, like I said earlier, the thing is, YouTube filters comments. We see it here because there's things I type on my YouTube, and I see it pop up on the StreamYard, but it doesn't pop up in the chat. So they filter us. They filter the main account, the Finest account, and they filter you. That's got nothing to do with us, though. Okay. The only thing we'll do is put you on a timeout if you start spamming the chat. We've done that before, but we haven't blocked anybody because the next day you could come back on and you say the things you do. And oftentimes the people who spam the chat and we tell them, they come back and they calm down and they become regular viewers. So we don't do that, guys. And we have no control, unfortunately, for what YouTube does on this. It is their platform. So like I said, the overlords will be the overlords. And, you know, there's very little we could do in some of these situations. But just to quickly go back to this again, keep in mind, guys, all right, you know, we're a police podcast. So who are we to talk anytime we talk about the economy and all that stuff and your pension? What do we know, right? You know, I'm just a idiot detective who wasn't smart enough to take a medical experiment, right? And possibly get cancer. I'm just a dumb detective. What do we know, right? But keep in mind, if the job is clearly willing to change the rules mid-game and you know, make these disingenuous legal arguments, right? And when we talk about pension and how you need to speak up about it, because something to think about, if they're willing to do this, do you think for a second they aren't willing to use it when it comes convenient for your pension to try and change the rules mid-game, okay? To try and adjust that pension. Do you think they wouldn't do it? I think they would. And again, we keep telling you you got to pay attention. You got to speak up to unions, and you got to put pressure on them as well. And again, what do we know? What do I know? Right? I only know that your pension fund, by the way, has 4.7% invested in private credit market, and that private credit market is blowing up now. But that's a different conversation. We don't know anything.
Yeah, I've been telling people the longest time that your pension is a very useful tool. Be mindful of that, and people don't realize it. They don't understand how economics works in New York City. You got to pay attention to that. By the way, shout out to Chronicles, gives you a nice compliment, Marlon, which I agree. No, you're not an idiot, Marlon. More than just cancer. My God, so much more. Yeah, pay attention to that. And I agree with you. That was always my argument, Marlon, is the NYPD, we never, when we took the job, I mean, obviously we didn't know there would eventually be a scandemic, but they never said that, hey, one day you might be subjected, that you have to take something in your body, take a shot, and that could be your job or not. They change the game. Unless you're part of the top 2 tiers. If you're general population, they change the game on you, and you better play. You better play. Same thing with this disciplinary matrix. They change the game with that too.
Yeah, Armed Squad NYPD says, quick question. I know this podcast is something you enjoy doing, also giving an inside look of how things operate within the NYPD, but why would you not be this vocal while you were inactive? So again, we've spoken on this numerous times. I'm just going to say for myself, I was always this vocal internally inside of the NYPD. I always spoke about the politics. I read every policy. I kept everybody informed about what our city council members and state assembly, Senate members, Congress. I was in contact with all of them. I just didn't do it publicly on social media. And the reason that I was the first person in the NYPD to get denied a religious accommodation and then have my what do they call that? My appeal denied almost momentarily was because of how vocal I was in the NYPD. And they knew that I had the ability to affect large groups of people. So, I got done in because people like me. That's basically what it was. So, I mean, and so we were all always who we are. We just didn't go out in the media and host a podcast, obviously, because you're not allowed to do that. So, I mean, and I was never on social media until I realized, I was like, you know what? This is the only way. After I got shut out and then I started doing major media, I started to realize, wow, you're really only allowed to say certain things. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll create a platform where we could actually say things that are actually happening. So, that's what happened. I don't think that none of us changed our behavior afterwards. I don't think any of us say things that we didn't say. It just whatever. If you're on the job and you're running a podcast, you're an idiot because they're gonna come after you. and you shouldn't be doing it anyway. And at one time, I was a believer in the mission in the NYPD. I still am. I just thought not in the believer, not in this perception management what the NYPD turned into. I was a huge believer in the NYPD. I loved it. I thought what they were doing was great, and I don't see it anymore. I think that what they're doing is completely ineffective. I think that's all the wrong messaging. You have the worst, dumbest people in charge of it. But as far as being vocal towards politics and all that, always did it my whole career. I don't know.
I said before, just before they suspended me for not taking the vax, essentially in November of 21, I was vocal. I went to the union meeting. In fact, at the union meeting, I asked a question about inflation, right? And I know they were thinking about it because the treasurer in the restroom, the treasurer, he brought up that question again, in the stall. He broke stall etiquette and asked me that, and started talking about it again. But the thing is, keep in mind now that Armed Squad, that you yourself are using you're not using your real name here, so you yourself know why you're very limited when it comes to that, to speaking up about certain things on the job. But I also spoke out about the vax, okay? And I already told you guys what Deputy Chief Surgeon Kufo tried to do, and had I not recorded the conversation, I might have gotten suspended just for asking simple questions. So it's you yourself know the reason why you're very much limited in what you can say vocally while still on the job, But again, like John said, we all believed in the job, we all believed in it. I believed the union was going to help me.
Me too. Me too. I was like, there's no way. I was like, how could, and then after I sat there crying on a piece of paper, writing my religious accommodation, literally spent 3 hours after work one day, like hysterical crying in my office writing. Cause I felt like somebody was bending me over. I felt like I was getting raped because I'm like pouring my heart out onto this piece of paper. I'm like, holy shit, I really think that they're going to go through with denying it. And then I had like a high level attorney in my office. Well, at the time she was a nobody. Now she's like all the way up there. And she's like, my husband's getting overtime tonight to deny your religious exemptions. I was like, well, do me a favor. Tell your husband when he gets mine to pass it, because if he denies mine, he's going to be hearing from me for a very fucking long time. And she's like, yeah, we'll see. I was like, yeah, we will see. And here we are 4 years later, and I'm still in court with New York City. And I actually named her in my lawsuit. So, you know. So,
listen, I just like
your husband will be deposed. You know.
Yeah, just like you and Marlon, I wasn't on social media ever. I'm still a social media nightmare. It was just not my thing. I was never on social media, but I was active. I always expressed myself on the job. Everybody knew that I would always stand up for my guys. If I had to speak up, I wasn't afraid to speak up, but I also followed policy, right? Unlike John Schell and Kaz Daughtry, social media policy was not to be unprofessional and talk about the NYPD on social media. That was something that was supposed to be for the police commissioner, where the job completely changed. And I did. I believed in the mission also, and I believed that they would take care of good. I always said, guys would tell me, why are you still out there, still running around getting guns? You know, you're going to get in trouble, right? So, listen, I know I'm getting civilian complaints. I'm being targeted, but I was a delegate for the SBA. I was a delegate for the LBA. I thought that I would get backed and supported by the union. I thought the job would say, wow. I mean, because I was getting awards for the same things I got complaints. I was getting Lieutenant of the Year, Leader of the Finest, and the same awards I was getting civilian complaints. I figured the job would back me up. And I never really understood how politics injected to the job until it was too late. So for me, I spoke up while I was on the job, just like John and Marlon. When things were wrong at a meeting, I didn't care. If I was the odd man out, I would say, this doesn't make sense. This is not right. But at the same token, I did follow policy, and I did follow the rules, right? And I was a good team player, and I was a good soldier. I was a good Marine. I was, for the most part, unless it was immoral, I did what I was told to do. But if it was immoral, I would stand up for it. But you were definitely in a precarious position. We're definitely the same people we were then that we are now. And anybody can tell you, we haven't changed anything. And that's why I always say, myself, John, and Marlon, we're not afraid. God forbid we got taped in the locker room, it would be the same conversation we had now. So we never changed our position. We just changed our publicity. And obviously now and Marlon, you made a great point. So, same people here that are being kind of subjective or objective towards us when it comes to our position are also hiding behind names so they understand it, right? You have to be active and honest, but you also have to protect yourself to a point. So the chiefs that I say right now that are not speaking out, they're in a far better position than we were to actually stand up. Someone has to stand up for the people.
No, it's a joke, dude. Like the whole thing, look, it is what it is. We did what we had to do. It is, I love how people try to rewrite us all the time. It's like, dude, ask anybody that ever worked for us. That's it. Ask the guys that were on any of our teams or worked with us, supervised us. Ask any of them about us. That's it. Don't ask the critics about us. Ask the people that work directly with us about us, and they'll tell you. And honestly, and why do you think we've built such a large following? Because we're not full of shit. Right? And everyone knows it. The community, our supervisors, our peers, our subordinates, like they all know it. No, that's who he was. Ask anybody about me, how I was politically. I was always up on every policy and every piece of legislation that was coming out of New York City or the NYPD. As a matter of fact, people way above my pay grade would come to me to see what I thought about things. Because of how I was. So, and yeah, Chronicle said we're about to crack 160K subscribers on YouTube. Social media is growing like crazy. I mean, we're getting millions and millions of views. Speaking of social media, I did not realize that there was some other feature in Instagram, on my own personal Instagram, and I found it. I guess they put an update in Instagram. So I updated my Instagram, and there's this other feature in messages. I guess they hide some messages. I didn't know that. And I honestly, I can't even check the messages I get regularly. But I went in that thing and I saw a lot of old stuff in there from a lot of cops and a lot of people asking for advice and help. I apologize. I'm not going to call you a year later, 2 years later. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I apologize for not seeing that. But if anyone's ever messaged me and I haven't responded, I just get so many messages. I apologize. I think I'm going to add a subscription feature or something in there that I'll be able to see all of the messages. Because I was looking at it last night. I was like, oh wow, I feel like a loser, because there was so many messages in there. But yeah, I don't know. That's it. What else, Maul? Anything else on these two topics before we move on to the last thing for the day?
No. I think we covered it well. I think we can move on to the next one.
Yeah. And just big shout out to Terry Marine. He's always in there. He's always pushing the chat. We got about 600 people on there. Let's get 100 likes. Do us a favor. Hit like, subscribe. If you're watching or listening to this later, do us a favor. Like, subscribe. I think it's over 60% of the people that listen to this channel regularly and our return users are not subscribed. So please subscribe. Please, even if you don't like it, just hit the like for us. Help move us up in the algorithm. We appreciate you guys.
Well, one quick thing, John, about the Instagram thing. Yeah, John is right. I got to apologize too. It just hit me that I should check that thing too. And I see one here from February 27th from formerly known as Gang. So yeah, just hit me up again, brother. I'm gonna get back to you, but I'm sorry as well for not getting back to you on that.
Mon doesn't even do Instagram at all because I send him collabs all the time and he never accepts them. So don't feel bad.
Yeah, I really don't like Instagram as a platform. It's just a mess with the UI and everything. I like weird, simplicity, dude. I'm old.
They did like a retweet button on there now. I saw with the update, there's like a retweet on there now.
Yeah.
So all right. Last thing. So obviously we gave our whole breakdown of the video. I don't think when we broke down that video, we were emotional about it at all. I think we broke down the facts. We showed you the patrol guide procedure. We showed you exactly what 221-01 line 2 item D says as it relates to handcuffed prisoners. We weren't telling anyone to hit and handcuff prisoner, but I watched Sal Greco's show yesterday. I think we all did. I was laughing the whole time. I didn't watch it in real time. I made a few comments on that. I'm pretty sure they didn't bring them up to the screen. I did it from X, but I was watching backwards because they were way ahead of where I was. And look, he couldn't even explain it on his own. He had to bring his attorney on to explain the patrol guide procedure for him and explain even his talking point. I thought he failed miserably. I thought he had a horrible take on it. Again, I don't hate Sal. But if anybody was emotional about this topic, it was definitely Sal and Eric Sanders. They were very emotional. I honestly thought Jack had the most rational view of all of them on there. I think he broke it down just from using common sense. And the bottom line is they both told you, I got bit, just get bit. You could never strike someone in handcuffs. And then they switch it to the video that comes out with with the girl where her partner is tossing the guy and he puts the gun on the desk or whatever. And they're talking about how there was a shootout when a guy was cuffed. And it's well, according to you, then you can't shoot that guy that's shooting at you as handcuffed because the battle's over. And they were talking about what should have been done while he was handcuffed and how he should have been taught. And I'm it was so contradictory to everything. And they never, ever acknowledged 221-01, line 2, item D, where it says that you could, to overcome an assault, you could use force against the handcuffed prisoners. And throwing a train technique to the ribs of somebody it was not being done punitively. It was being done defensively. And to write off a bite as if it's not an assault, and then to make the claim that you can't transmit a disease like AIDS or tuberculosis or Hep B is insane to me. And I'm like, you're just doubling down on your stupid take because you feel like an idiot because you got abused online about it. And like, it's ridiculous. Tab, I got no hard feelings for Sal. Sal was wrongfully terminated. He should absolutely win his case. And you know, I saw that he put out also that like the NYPD did administrative subpoena for his phone. But look, it is what it is, man. When you have people on the job feeding you confidential information and you're plugging it out there right away, what do you think the job's going to do? They're going to protect themselves. They're going to say, where's this leak coming from? They're not going after Sal. They were going after a cop. And what I'm hearing is somebody got suspended because of it, right? And do you hear about the guy that got suspended? No. You hear somebody else playing victim and how they're going to sue, you know? And it's like, well, what are you the victim about? What are you the victim about? You were putting out confidential information, and the job obviously is going to go to protect itself and figure out where their leak is. You know, I got that video too on the desk. I had it hours before that was out on online, and I was like, I'm not putting it out. I had someone's name and tax number right across the screen, and I'm sure that's where the subpoena came in from. And look, I'm sure my phone, there is a subpoena for my phone, but as you can see, no one's ever got suspended for talking to us because we don't put out shit that's not confidential. We don't put shit out that's not public information. We never did. We never have.
Yeah, we've always stayed by that rule. We always go by that measure. Now, what's interesting is I foreshadowed this. I just didn't think it was going to come so quick. If you remember a few days ago, we spoke and I said that Dominic Izzo and Sal Greco boxed themselves into a position now that anytime there's a use of force or a need for use of force, they're not going to be able to stay in that position because of this position saying that the battle's over when the cuffs come on. And here it came a lot quicker than I expected. Because the take that I heard, the perspective from Jack, who was not even a cop, it's fine. You can give your opinion, but given your tactical analysis, honestly, just doesn't weigh much for me. But at least it came from a rational point of view. So when we hear Jack and Sal and Eric Sanders talk about their position on a handcuffed prisoner, I find it laughable when you said the battle is over. So I said they box themselves in a position where they can no longer give that perspective, and it came up a lot earlier than I expected. So they talked about how dangerous a cuffed prisoner could be, and that person could get to the firearm and even take your life. But why is a prisoner trying to bite a cop not dangerous? Why is that? Maybe that's not a life-threatening injury, or maybe it could be a life-threatening injury, but it sure is an injury that you should not want to sustain. And I always said, as a cop, you shouldn't have to sustain injuries. I know a lot of people think, well, it's a matter of life and death, but it should be also injuries. You have a right to go to work and go home the same way that you appeared. You shouldn't have to deal with someone sinking their teeth into your body, into any portion of your body. So the fact that they said that this handcuffed prisoner with the firearm could be so dangerous and take the lives of them, and you should toss and constantly. Eric Sanders said it. You should toss a prisoner several times, which I agree with. But how can you say this perpetrator with a firearm in handcuffs is such a threat, but the perpetrator actively trying to bite a police officer's leg is not a threat? There's different levels of threat, but that's a threat also. There's severe injury and there's injury. So I want to say and put an emphasis on that because they took that position, they now box themselves in. And anytime we have a scenario where we'll be talking about use of force, it's going to be really tough for them to articulate on why it's acceptable when they took this position on a police officer defending himself from a handcuffed prisoner. And yes, a handcuffed prisoner can be a threat. They could thrash their hips, they could bite you, they could spit at you, they could use their head as a weapon. A handcuffed prisoner is just a handicap. It doesn't mean it all stops.
I mean, think of it for a second. If you have a prisoner who's trying to escape, what are you not going to use force on them to prevent that escape too? You know, well, even if they're in handcuffs, you're not going to use force to prevent them from escaping. I mean, aside from the patrol guide rules, I mean, it's just there's a lot of common sense in here that's not that was glossed over, and again, what we're taught, what I think Eric was referring to specifically is called the sunken cost fallacy. Okay, and it's a cognitive bias where, to break it down more easily, right? it's when you're so invested in something that you're invested in the outcomes of something, so you have to get more invested in it, okay, even if that is a wrong endeavor, or it's a wrong, it's a flawed argument, or it's a flawed principle, or whatever. You're so invested in it that you, instead of correcting it, you have to keep going further in there. And I think it's a bad argument that was made initially, and Sal's just going deeper into it. And don't get me wrong, don't get us wrong, we don't hate Sal or anything, and we wish him the best. And I personally don't think that Eric Sanders is good for that show, and I think his influence on that show shows. And I I I think he needs himself should take a step back and let Sal do his thing again without kind of hovering over that show and hovering over presence wise over that show. But I give kudos to Jack for you know having having a pushing back against that their flawed arguments. Okay, and for somebody who's not a cop or has no experience to have actually pushed back on that is I got to give him credit for that. So.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think I think yeah. Look, I just thought the take was ridiculous. I think Sal's entertaining. I think he has a good show. I think he does some good stuff. I don't think he knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to breakdowns of police videos. I'm sorry. He's had some really bad takes, even when he was on this network. And you guys have witnessed it, time and time again, where cops are always wrong in these videos that come out. That's what I've noticed. And it's like, if you want to say they're wrong, let's talk about the procedure and let's talk about the law. Let's not talk about how you feel about it and what you were told. That's the Joe Cop. Right? That's being Joe Cop, is like, nah, I always got told that, Mo. It's like, yeah, well, look what it says right here. Like, look what it says right here. And Ron brought it up too, where he said, and we were talking about this yesterday, Ron. I didn't talk to Ron about it. I talked to Maul and Eric about it. And we were saying too, like, you're trying to say that, like, they're trying to crack the guy's skull for for keeping the guy's head down to the ground while he's spitting at them and trying to bite them. Like, you're going to crack the guy's skull. And then they're talking about asphyxiation. And they're talking about the diaphragm law. Like, you want this cop to get charged. For what? Like, first of all, every video that we've seen, everyone violates the diaphragm law because it makes no sense. Right? And they weren't keeping that guy on his belly. The guy was actively fighting with them, and they were having a hard time controlling him. And then I had other guys on Instagram, cops, saying they did a terrible job. You don't hit handcuffed prisoners, and they failed to control them. And I was like, well, I could tell you never went to the key and you never read 221-02, because if you read 221-02, it literally goes into how you can't use pressure or force on someone's back, neck, or diaphragm. And if you do that, you not only violate the patrol guide, it's a misdemeanor according to the diaphragm law. So it's leaving cops And it's leaving cops no ability to really control perps other than through throwing strikes. And so, like, it was a horrible take all around. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not upset about it. It was a terrible take. You had no idea what you were talking about, and you had to bring your attorney on to try to give you an argument of why what you're saying is right when it wasn't. And it wasn't. I mean, look at the tweet. He put the tweet out. He got like 100 likes and a bunch of comments from all these anti-cop people. I retweeted him. It had like 5,000 likes and thousands of comments saying that nobody did anything wrong. And like, I'm sorry. And if you look at who was in the chat, it was chiefs, it was inspectors, it was even some lefty people saying the cops didn't do anything wrong. There was not a punitive thing. That cop was not beating someone. He was not trying to hurt that emotionally disturbed person. If I thought that a cop was beating up someone that was homeless and mentally ill on the street, I would be the first person calling for them fired. I've told you, my first cousin is mentally ill and homeless on the streets in New York. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I would never be okay with that. He threw it, and by the way, if that was my cousin, I'd be saying the same exact thing. The same exact thing. He was trying to bite him. Cop didn't do anything wrong. He was defending himself. He stopped the minute the guy stopped biting him. And they even went on to try to say that, like, well, he didn't actually bite the guy. He was just biting his pants. Are you kidding me? You think he wasn't trying to bite the dude? Oh, and AIDS? Who said anything about AIDS? Now the guy's got it. Nobody said he has anything, but the potential for you to have disease or infection from a human bite is so high, it's not even funny. So, like, I got no hard feelings about it. It was a terrible take. If you want to have some more terrible takes, keep talking about videos that you have no idea about and procedure that you have no idea about, and then go backwards and get your attorney on, and then try to find every other way why you're right or way to make it right. It's not just us that disagree with you. It's a lot of people. It's thousands and thousands of people. I think that thing had over 500,000 views on it, and it wasn't in your favor, bro, by far. Like, there was less than 1% of the people on there that agree with you.
There's nothing personal here, but we have to call a spade, and that's why I said they box themselves in a position where no longer you can make a proper assessment and use of force because you said the cop can't strike someone when they're in handcuffs, saying that they're not a threat anymore. The battle's over. So, and I've dealt with perpetrators who have one-armed. You can't say a perpetrator with one arm can't be a threat. A handicap does not mean someone's a threat. There's actually someone that fights in an MMA, I forgot which organization it is, who has a handicapped arm. And he actually uses it to his advantage. He has a handicapped arm. It's a short arm, and he's actually really effective. He uses it to his advantage. So my point is, a handicap is just that. It's just a handicap. It doesn't mean it stops them. And what was said about that was Jack, who was never in law enforcement, had the most adult take on it. And that's why I said, I respect his opinion. I not necessarily a tactical analysis, but I respect his opinion. And his opinion, I thought, was the most adult in the room out of the three of them. And two of them actually served in the police force. And I had to ask myself, well, what did they actually do in the police force then? I mean, Eric Sanders said he took Mac 10s and Uzis off people. I find that hard to believe. I took hundreds of guns off people, and I never took an Uzi off. So to me, that didn't sound genuine.
I want to see how many arrests he had.
It didn't sound genuine to me at all. But either way, that was not an honest conversation. You can't say in the same conversation, you can't say that a handcuffed prisoner, the battle is over, but then a handcuffed prisoner with a firearm could take your life. Because think about it, those cops didn't know that handcuffed prisoner had a firearm, so their lives were at danger the entire time, not just when they grabbed the firearm.
Dude, I was literally like, when they transitioned to that, I was like, is this a joke? Do they even understand that, like, they're contradicting everything they just said?
Well, they're thinking about it right now.
Yeah, I was cracking up, and I was like,
speaking of, where's Nin?
He's listening quietly tonight, and I hope we learned. I hope we learned you something tonight.
Do people realize that Sanders is literally like delegitimizing Sal? And think of it, who benefits in that situation? Who might the guy look to represent him now? Who might that or the family of that EDP look to represent him now? Sanders, Yeah,
but we can't give Mom, we can't give Sal and I love Sal, I do, man. This is not personal, but we can't give Sal a pass and say, well, it's all Eric's fault, because Sal's a grown man and he allowed Eric to take over that platform. So it's also Sal's job to say, listen, to take a stand and say, enough's enough. This is my show and I'll take the direction. But clearly that's not what happened.
Yeah, you're right. All right.
Oh, yeah. Matt O'Brien says, why was this brought up 2 years later? I don't know, dude. Sal said it was going viral on TikTok. I don't know. I only seen him post about it. I don't know. And then everyone started sending it to me. He was the one that brought it up, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe someone else sent it to him, whatever. But, like, those cops did nothing wrong. And if you're a member of the NYPD and you understand use of force in the NYPD, and you understand the penal code, and you understand the patrol guide, you would be saying what we're saying. And again, I was in internal affairs. I'm literally saying they did absolutely nothing wrong. And you're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about, because I'm going to get the legal perspective on here. Okay. And look, for a while, I think that we helped Sanders a lot. I think he got a lot of phone calls because of coming on Unfiltered. And, and just as fast as that happened is just as fast as those phone calls are no longer happening, And so, like, again, when you're looking to go viral, you're going to do stupid things. And there's been a lot of stupid takes. And, look, I got no hard feelings for Sal, but I honestly think that it's I got nothing. I got literally. I haven't watched that show in a long time. I only watched it because I was curious what they were going to say, and I'm going to go back to not watching it. So that's what it is. You guys do what you want. I got no hard feelings for Sal, but I'm like, it is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I think that they're giving an honest perspective, because I literally don't, and I don't like Sanders' messaging at all. I don't trust him. And that's it. I don't like it. And because Sal hasn't aligned himself with him, I don't trust Sal either. It's that simple. And same goes for Jack. Same goes for Jack. I don't trust any single one of them. I have no hard feelings. I don't consider any of them a friend. And I just got to be honest about it. I got to be honest about it. That take was horrible. You have no idea what you're doing. There's plenty of police videos that we spoke about, and you proved you have no idea what you're talking about. Stick to the corruption thing, or stick to being the TMZ for the NYPD and talking about who's banging who, because it like doing police video breakdowns just ain't your thing, bro. Sorry.
Well, I tell you what, honestly, I kind of questioned not how many collars they had, if they ever actually made any collars, because I can tell you right now, in my opinion, anyone that's ever made a collar, one of the hardest things to do, Mullen and John, I wonder if you agree, is the hardest things to do, because you're in such a terrible, vulnerable position, and there's not much you could do, is getting a perp in the back of a car. When a perp is handcuffed and they don't want to get in the back of a car, it's one of the hardest things to do. Think about it. Anyone that stiffens up their body, and John and Mullen, I'm sure you've been there, I was there, try to get someone in the back of the car, right, who's handcuffed. They're not trying to bite you. They just don't want to get in the car. That's one of the hardest things, because you can't punch them, and their body stiffens up. And it looks terrible, right? We all do it. You start pushing down on their head, or you try to take them down from the legs, throw them in the back of the car, and that looks terrible. And does anyone have a problem with that? And I have a problem with their assessment, because anyone who's ever made a collar and knows getting someone in a car is a hard task. When they don't want to get in that car, man, good luck. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And Mullen, you said, when they get in the car, they kick the window out, they spit at you, and that's someone who's handcuffed. They're a threat.
Yeah, well, John touched on this, but the diaphragm law wasn't mentioned yesterday. Okay, and you see the difficulty that the cops have putting a guy under control with the diaphragm law being there right now. The fact that you can't put pressure on their upper back, and that was not even touched on yesterday. So again, flawed argument, flawed position, and I just think the sunken cost, the sunk cost fallacy is in play, and they just keep going deeper and deeper into a flawed argument, and I think the brakes need to be pulled, before just because I'm also upset by the amount of people that. There are some people who've also been on this network who also praise that, and it's a terrible argument. And I hate the fact that there are a lot of low information people that are going to see that and think that, they're going to join the chorus of people who have these ridiculous expectations of police, especially since the diaphragm law is there. But I think I think you're muted, Eric.
Oh, I just want to say your point is spot on, bro, because shame on them, because people look at them, especially lefties. Oh, they were cops. Look what they're saying. Just like Raganella. Oh, and when you're a cop, you have to be very careful on what you say, and you have to give the proper perspective, especially on anecdotal experience. And that's why I question, what is their anecdotal experience? They never had a perp in handcuffs, try to spit at them, try to bite them. Yeah. Like, who are you locking up? Almost.
No, they did. They got bit. That's what I kept saying, Eric. I kept saying to them, just get bit, and they would never put it up. I'm not expecting them to put it up, but like that's what they were saying. I got bit. Just get bit. What are you gonna do? It's just a bite.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's just get bit.
Experience. I got bit. You should get bit. And they were pulling Uzis off the people.
Yeah. Apparently, I pulled hundreds of guns. I never pulled an Uzi off anybody. He pulled the Uzis, Mac 10s. Oh wow.
Well, to be fair, Sanders was in the 80s and 90s, right? He was a cop. So there definitely were Uzis out there, but he's seen Uzis, but I doubt he was the one taking them out of anybody's waistband.
Yeah.
Or probably the cops that he worked with were, he saw doing that.
Or he incidentally pulled one off, he stopped somebody and they just happen to have a, or
Well,
they
when he
happen to
brought
have
his
it in the car.
prisoner up, that the sergeant ordered him to take the arrest, and then his partner pulled the Uzi out at the desk. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
But
But
handcuff prisoner.
Yeah. Now you can't search handcuffed prisoners, bro.
Huh.
But that was bad. And honestly, the one thing they were right about is that those cops deserve to get suspended 100%.
Yeah.
They need you almost got people killed. You almost got yourselves killed. You almost got people killed.
True.
I never had any mercy for that. Like, search your prisoners. Like, there is, and the one thing they pointed out, if you really can't search them on the scene, get it to a safe location, take them out of the car and search them. Put it over the radio if you're worried about anything. Put it over the radio. Put it all over. I'm stopping here. I wasn't able to search. Scene was crazy. I'm going to do a proper frisk and a search at the command, because that is inexcusable. Right in the guy's front waistband was a loaded firearm. Like, that is inexcusable, and it shows you just how dangerous handcuffed prisoners are. Right. So I'm like, whatever. I don't want to beat the dead horse, but it's like that whole thing was was ridiculous.
Spot 3 hours and 25 minutes into it. Like, share, and subscribe, please. If you hit that like button, hit that hype button also. We appreciate it. Great show as always. Thank you to George Misfud with the key. Great presentation. He's spotted, shows a lot of charisma. And I think if you need, or you're in a position that you're a cop and you want to get promoted, take the key, get promoted. It's worth. And if you don't want to get promoted, take the test anyway. Take the exam. Give yourself that option. And with that being said, let's go to the coffee and donuts.
Yeah. With that said, the internet's a place where you can share all kinds of opinions and takes, even though it's wrong. You got that freedom. You can do whatever you want with your show. But the thing is, take that bite is quickly becoming, just take that stabbing. We saw it a couple of weeks ago in that Queen's EDP. Where Mamdani doesn't want any sort of prosecution of the EDP, right? So we're heading into a time frame where it's like people are assuming that just because we're cops, that we're getting paid to get injured or maimed, and that in particularly is why that's such a bad take. Take that bite, just take that stabbing. Well, what's next? What, take that paralysis next? We got paid to come here and get spend the rest of our lives injured. It's just ridiculous, but we said it all.
Yeah, no, it was just a snowball fight, Marlon. Just a snowball fight.
Yeah, that one too. Just take the snowball to your face, and ridiculous.
And look, just look the other thing. Like, numbers don't lie, dude. Numbers don't lie. Look at Sal's social media. Look at his show since he made the decision that he didn't want to be on the Finest Unfiltered. I mean, it hasn't went up. It went significantly down, and that's because people see it. It's bullshit, like, you're pushing narrative. Same thing when he put me and you on that show, Eric, or he was on here and he brought up a video with the cops were on top of somebody. All you saw were cops on top of someone. And he's like, they frisked them illegally. The cops should be fired. And I'm like, wait a minute. We didn't even see anything. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Terrible.
And then you find out, somebody's who's representing them. And like, dude, don't ever do that again. Like, and it's like, and that's why he's not here no more. And honestly, he's not welcome back. I don't consider him a friend. I don't think anyone else does. I got no hard feelings for the guy, but he lost his way, dude. And how he treated us after us looking out for him constantly when everybody was against him. I got no love for him, dude. You're going to let your lawyer say that we should be in jail and that we should get sued for defamation for what? For pointing out that the 1.5 mile run is not a racist? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
And Jack claims he butt dialed me the other day. Phone rang several times. He hasn't spoke to him in months. I know that you called me to speak to me. It's okay. It's okay. You can hide and pretend. It's okay, Jack.
Yeah, and not one of them has called, by the way. I haven't spoke to any of them in months. I haven't spoke to any of them in months. Like, so I got nothing to say to any of them anymore.
No, Jack never called one time to say thank you for putting me on this network. And if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have met Sal. So he never called one time. But that's okay. He's just a kid. So he's got a lot to learn.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely ridiculous, dude. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, we should be in jail. We should be shut down. And again, he didn't name us, but he was talking about us. We weren't named, but there were plenty of tweets that were out there, and I retweeted them. Then he blocked me on social media and kept running. And he was doing all these things about retired cops wearing MAGA hats and that were racist and all this other bullshit. And I'm like, dude, this guy's coming on the network and he's putting all this bullshit out and he's getting free advertising. You know, and he's literally legitimized because you're even Sal was legitimized because he associated with us. Jack too. Jack came out of left field, out of nowhere. We give him a chance. People know who he is now because of us. Not even a phone call. Nothing. So I got again. I don't care. Anyone watches that show. I would never tell anyone not to do whatever you want. It's a free country, but you know the numbers don't lie. You know
no,
the numbers don't lie.
We got to call it like it is. Not one time. Since we parted ways, it wasn't personal. We found a different direction. Jack never called one time to say, "Hey, John, Eric, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Marlon." Nothing.
Sal
nothing.
either. Sal either.
Never
picked up the fucking phone. You know, and so you showed your true colors, and to me, it is what it is. You know, look, they left. We were at I think we were at 48,000 followers. We're at 160,000. So they left 4 months ago, and we grew 100 and some thousand followers. So who was the weight? Who was holding who back is really the question. Who was delegitimizing who? And then there's a lot of other shady shit that I realized, and there's a lot of names that show up in the chat now, and that are writing articles now that were attacking me and Eric for a very long time. And it's funny how close you are with them. It's fucking funny. It's funny. I was like, who this guy? Where did he come from? Why is he writing articles about me and Eric? Why is he always harping on the show? And now all of a sudden, oh, wow. Now all of a sudden, it just happens to be like you guys are friends. And then I'm like, well, did you put him up to that?
Yep.
That's pretty weird.
Because we know.
That's
right,
pretty
John?
weird.
We know, brother.
You were doing
we
that?
know.
Were you doing that, you snake? Yeah, so we're not friends. So that's good. You know.
John, we know. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
And
Jack never had the balls once to pick up the phone and say, "Hey guys, thank you." Not a pair of balls. If you want to say, "Oh, I'm a kid, I didn't know any better," man up.
yeah, and Boston Bob, remember I said the sunken cost fallacy. Okay, the more Sal is committed to that guy, to Sanders, is the more he's delegitimizing himself, and the more he's committed to picking that side. Okay, we're not saying to pick a side. Okay, you can do whatever you want, but we're just saying how it's been no good for him. Okay, so even if you think we're talking out of our asses, if he had listened to us months ago, he'd have been in a much better place than following Sanders. Okay, so that's all I'm saying.
Hey, Ron Layson said it good here, right here. How about Sanders live tweeting information from our private text thread? Yeah, Ron,
Yep.
Spot on, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll tell you the same thing. I always heard horrible things about Eric Sanders. Same stuff that I heard about Eric Adams, and I gave him a pass too. I was like, "Oh, he's not a bad guy. He seems all right. Like he see, you know, I might not agree with him on everything, but like I think he's not a bad guy, and I totally take that back. You know, totally take that back.
Well, you know, sometimes, listen, most of the time there's rumors, and unfortunately, sometimes they come true. And I heard people say the same thing. Watch out for Eric. Stay clear away from him. And I said I give him the opportunity. Here's another guy who never picked up the phone. Never picked up the phone. He watches the show. He's part of the network. Never called me to say, sorry, you lost your son. The whole time he was supposed to take our case. Never called once. Never to say sorry about your son. So you know what? I know where he belongs.
Yeah. All right. Screw them. Let's get to the coffee and donuts. That's it.
Let's do it, baby.
Somebody said, could Jack even lift a phone? Good point.
Oh, that's hilarious. Who said that? Oh my God.
That's a good point. All right, let's do it. 26 and out, $4.99. He says, is there a class suit to sue the rats who are watching and subpoena our phone records illegally? FYI, Nassau PD test raised the age. Is there a subpoena? Look, I think that definitely those things are misused. That's one thing that I think is right. Though those administrators' subpoenas are misused. If you're not committing a crime, I technically do not believe, and I'm pretty sure it's legal, that it's not legal for them to even subpoena Sal's phone to get the information of who's sending him information. I'm pretty sure that's not right. And I'd love to see what was written on that administrative subpoena, because they probably perjured themselves, whatever they wrote. But it's been a practice that's been used in law enforcement for a long time. I'm not saying that it should continue just because it's happened. It probably is illegal. So I don't think there is a class action suit currently, but I think that there should be.
Yeah. I've said before, it's not that hard to get an admin subpoena. It really is not. You mentioned you use police corruption and you use terrorism, and those things are like, they're easy to get, and
But what's the terrorism and what's the police corruption with you talking to someone that has a podcast?
no, what I'm saying is they're going to use it as them leaking information as try to squeeze that on the corruption, not breaking an admin police, a patrol guide or whatever. Or
But it has
rules,
to be
basically.
it has to be a crime. There's no crime there.
No, but the thing is, there's no. Let me tell you, in Leeds, a lot of the stuff we investigated are not crimes, but we still got the subpoena.
But it's wrong.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
wrong.
right.
Well, no, it is wrong. 100% it's wrong. And I think if more of the public understood it, there would be
there'd be lawsuits.
outreach. Yeah,
That is wrong, brother. That is
there'd
wrong.
be outreach. But that's exactly what I think they're using now. And in fact, there's been a couple articles, I forgot where, maybe the Gothamist has talked about the admin subpoenas and how it's not right. But it's kind of fallen by the wayside, that conversation in the recent actually, since Tish got there, it's, as a matter of fact, it's kind of fallen to the wayside. But
Phil here says it right here, dude. My emails were subpoenaed by NYPD IAD under the Patriot Act. I was retired over 25 years. The case was thrown out. The system is broken.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, they labeled us. Too. They labeled us. I mean, look, they definitely got subpoenas. Well, they definitely had at one point. I don't know if they still do, but they definitely had subpoenas on our phone too. I mean,
100%.
Look, I 100% they got it on all of us, and on Sal, I have no doubt, especially with Tish there, that they're doing it. Okay.
Well, if you look at my phone, I still got former cops and Marines sending me porn all day. So that's what they probably found on my phone.
So but look, but my point is, like, you would expect them to do that. Of course they were going to do that. And like, that's why I never put people in a position where they're going to get jammed up. I'm like, even if they send us shit, I'm like, I don't care. I'm not putting it out. There's plenty of shit that we could have put out and we never did. There's shit I know right now that I'm not saying and I'm not putting out, I don't need an exclusive. This isn't a John Macari show exclusive, like, fucking get the fuck out of here,
Oh, you don't want to be the first one?
Cops cheating on their husband and wife. It's like, oh wow, congratulations. Good to be a homewrecker, huh? Real good.
Stay trained up says, is it ball gag porn?
It definitely is. Stay trained up. I didn't see it, but there's definitely some ball gags.
Usually they send me stuff about midgets.
Yeah, midget porn. So my visual zone says, and I think this was to George. I forgot to ask this. Sorry, I had someone at my door. I think this was for Misfud. Said any non-NYPD classes just for people who want to learn the basics and maybe know how policing works and can learn how to interact with cops. So find us Unfiltered. If you need a class, let us know. We'll send you overall pricing.
I'm sure George will take your money.
Yeah. Come to, you come to find us Unfiltered. We could do it.
Chronicle said ball gag delivery, John. Yeah. John's got his on his way. It's gonna say
That's
NYPD.
what it was, That's what it was.
Imagine I get a ball gag. It says NYPD across with the patch.
Yeah. It was actually, I had to get, it said Guardians Power Hour. Do we develop a logo for that or not? Stephen Dess says you need to spend money to make money. He's talking about making the investment in your future. Great point. That's why I used the key. Eric used the key. If Marlon would have studied and became a sergeant, and if he goes back, I know he's gonna use the key. Absolutely, make the investment in your future. Not just money, the time. 2 hours a day, you study, you actually get to work, you do that material, and you break that guy down. You will pass that test. I guarantee. Use our code Finest Unfiltered 699 at checkout. It works. I've tried it. It's all one word. If it doesn't work, try it again. It will work. It'll take $150 off. The code's not going to be there. Don't cry next week when that code's gone. Like, oh, I want the 150. Well, we gave you the code, dude. So it is what it is. It's limited time. Sign up. If you even have an inkling that you want to do it, take it. Give yourself the opportunity. Give yourself if you have runway on this job and you have years to go on this job, if you have 2 years to go on this job, take that test because you don't know what's going to happen in the 2 years. You don't know what your life's going to come out. You don't know what situations you're going to encounter. You know, even now, I talk to guys all the time running out the door. I'm like, well, what are you doing with your life? Why are you running out the door? Like, you know, make it last. Like that pension is lucrative. Becoming a sergeant. I know only one guy that went backwards. Everybody else I know that took that test and became a sergeant, I don't care if they were the biggest, most incompetent sergeant ever, they never regretted it. They never regret it. So give yourself that thing. So absolutely, not only make that investment, but you got to put the time in. $6.99. Find us Unfiltered. $6.99 at checkout. Do that.
Marlon, I got a favor. Can you go back to the job and get promoted just so that me and John could show up at the ceremony? And I just can't wait to see their faces when we show up. We'll be there. I want to be there. I want to be there at the promotion ceremony.
Yeah. Well, you guys who are watching, especially you young guys, we keep telling you to take the test, but now I'm imploring you to take the test because you know I still have hopes to become an assistant commissioner one day or a deputy commissioner of social media clout chasing. Okay, and in order to get going on that career path, I need to be a driver somewhere. You know,
that's
so
why
you guys
he keeps pushing me to run for office. I know now why.
Yeah.
He wants to drive me. So
yeah, exactly. Not me.
Yeah, guys.
I'll be driving my RV. I'm good.
Yeah, I could become, if John runs for office, there's hope I could become deputy mayor of social media cloud chasing, you know?
Hey, listen, we're like, hey, Marlon got promoted by Rocket Fuel.
What's that? Unbelievable.
That's
all right.
No,
we're good. We still got more. Stephen Dess. He says the best way to help you study is to take a picture of the dumbest boss you know and put it on the cover of your study guide. Now, look, I don't recommend doing that because you don't want them to see it either because you're still going to have some time before you get promoted. But I definitely kept those mother effers in my head. I ain't going to lie. I was like, screw. And then
that's hilarious.
And even the bosses I liked, if they said some dumb shit, I would just like make myself mad about it just to motivate myself to go home and study more, you know, even if it really didn't mean anything by it. But I always kept the Theodore Roosevelt speech in my patrol guide, doer of deeds. And I just put it out there. Like, even if you don't make it, at least you try, you know, you're not there with those cold, timid souls who know neither victory, don't know defeat. Give yourself the opportunity. Don't just take the test, pass the test. Me and Eric were talking yesterday. I told him first sergeant's test I took, I didn't study. I was points away from passing. And I was like, wow, I'm an idiot. I should have studied. I would have been a sergeant. And then I watched all the dudes I came out with become sergeant. And I was like, next one I got to study for, but I had to wait. You know, I was like, wow, I'm an idiot. So, you know, we did that. Jesse James. Oh, wait, no, we missed one. Ralph Salento. Have some bagels on me, guy. There's Big Ralph. Thanks, Ralph. We appreciate you, brother.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we got to get Ralph on for a Friday roundtable though one day too. We'll get George on for an interview, but we need Ralph on one day.
That's gonna be a 6-hour show. I'll make sure I'll create space in my day for that one.
We might need to do like a week off. You know,
I can't wait.
So all right, Jesse James says, "Morning, gentlemen." Jesse James, welcome back, brother. Missed you. Diecast says, "Present for duty. Sadly, nothing new with the NYPD being targeted." Yeah, it is what it is, man. The hits just keep coming, baby.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Ron says, "You mean you are angry at a study?" You got to motivate yourself, bro. You got to get a little fire under the belly. You know.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to push back on John about putting that picture on your study guide. Put the picture on it. If they ask you, tell me, listen, Cap. I need some motivation. I want to become like you. You know. You're motivating me to take those tests, you know. We all know that's not the answer, but come on, whatever you guys got to do to motivate yourself to take the test. You know who you are. The same guys who listen, that same voice that tells you something's not right with that car over there. Let's pull it over. Okay. The same voice that tells you when you stop the car, you know, something's not right here. That same voice is telling you right now, you know what? I think it's time for me to take the test. You know, the same voice when you go into a precinct, and a girl at the desk has like 2 collars under her name, right? But now she's your boss. She's the boss telling you what to do, right? That you guys, it's time to listen to it and follow through. So you know who you are. You know you know when you're ready for it, and you know that time is coming. So,
well, unfortunately, the way it's going, you're not gonna need one picture. You need like a collage of all the stupid bosses. You just put a bunch of pictures. Oh, yeah, motivates like 10 pictures here.
That's it, people. So look, I wore my Willie Nelson shirt today. It says, "Fuck them, let them hate."
Bring it on, baby. Let's go.
Willie Nelson, baby.
Oh, man.
All right, people. Anything before we run?
Nope. 3 hours and 44 minutes is good for me.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie. So.
Yeah, no, I think we covered it all well here today. You know, thanks for joining us, guys. Thank you for those super chats. If you're out there today, stay safe, stay alert. You know, let's not get complacent. It's get into that time of the year where you know you know what I mean. Okay, so don't get complacent, and you know, have a great weekend.
Yeah, awesome weekend, everybody. We'll be back Monday as always. George, thank you for coming on today. Take the key. It's a filter 699. Pass that test. I passed one of the toughest tests. You can do it too. So listen, thank you, everyone. Awesome show. Thank you to our friends and listeners and trolls, of course. John, close us out, brother. Have an awesome weekend.
Oh, wait, one more thing. Stop listening to huckster lawyers, okay? All right. That's the advice for today, okay? Right? They don't have your interest in mind here.
But he's been in law enforcement for like 38. He's been around law enforcement for 38 years, watching them and critiquing them, not actually being one of them. You know, so yeah, whatever. All right, people. We'll see you on Monday. Find us Unfiltered. We'll be back at you. Thank everybody for joining.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?